Part 18. Martial Arts, Become Invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 171. Ding, it was detected that the host killed the 5 elders of the Evil Blood sect, wiped out more than 90% of the disciples of the Evil Blood sect, and completed the task of eradicating the Evil Blood section. Do you want to receive the reward? Receive. Ding, congratulations to the host for achieving full level and dominating the world. The rewards are being distributed and have been completed. A message poured into Xiao Wuji's mind, and it was the secret of Xiong Ba Tian Xia's cultivation. The glowing villain practiced Xiong Ba Tian Xia, and Xiao Wuji's understanding of Xiong Ba Tian Xia instantly reached the full level. Xiong Ba Tian Xia came from the first world in the world, and it was a move demonic knife. With one slash, ghosts cry and gods howl, and the heaven and earth are extinguished. The light of the knife flashes, and the enemy has been chopped into blood mist before he can react. Moreover, when practicing this sword technique, it is extremely easy to become possessed and be controlled by the sword technique. As a murderous puppet. Of course, this statement is a bit exaggerated. In Xiao Wuji's view, the power of Xiong domination is not as powerful as the 6 Ao Hanju. And the disadvantages of Xiong domination naturally cannot affect Xiao Wuji. Not to mention the system initiation, Xiao Wuji, the understanding of dominating the world directly reaches the full level. Even with Xiao Wuji's current martial arts level, he will not be affected by a mere dominating the world. It's okay, after all, I just destroyed an evil blood section. Destroying the evil blood sect is easy for Xiao Wuji. This sect that dominates the world is almost like giving it away for nothing. Xiaoqianhu, everything has been solved. At this time, Qin Haishan walked over with a long spear in his hand and walked with heroic steps. His spear was dripping blood, his armor was dripping blood, and his hair was dripping blood. Every step he took would leave a bloody footprint on the ground. Xiao Wuji closed the system, looked at the broken limbs at his feet with an expressionless expression, and said indifferently the evil blood sect was confiscated, and all the loot was registered in a book. The general will obey. Qin Haishan responded with cupped fists, and then led people to raid the evil blood sect's house. Many soldiers wearing armors wandered around the main halls and side rooms, looting all the property. Their methods of killing people and touching corpses were worse than Xiao Wuji's. Be proficient. In the evil blood sect's halls and rooms, no matter what secret rooms there are, they cannot be hidden from the soldiers' searches. The secret rooms that cannot be opened are broken open by them with brute force. Brutal force cannot break them. Qin Haishan was the one to open it. Qin Haishan couldn't split it, and Xiao Wuji was there. Anyway, it was the geese that plucking their hair, and the beasts leaving their skins. They scraped the ground for 3 feet, not even a single hair was spared. The evil blood sect has been practicing for many years. The treasures were all swept away by the soldiers. Boxes of gold and silver were moved out, boxes of antique calligraphy and paintings were moved out, and boxes of jewelry, weapons, iron ore, etc. The trophies were neatly placed in the square above. Many soldiers looked at each other with fiery eyes. Qin Haishan noticed this and immediately banged his spear and shouted coldly, "Please take care of your own hands and feet, General. If anyone has unclean hands and feet and takes something that shouldn't be taken, don't blame this general for being ruthless and chopping off his hand." This is the first time Qin Haishan has cooperated with Xiao Wuji. He doesn't know what Xiao Wuji's temperament is. If he conflicts with Xiao Wuji because his subordinates' hands and feet are unclean, it will be worth the loss. In fact, Xiao Wuji steals some points from his subordinates. He didn't care if he took some. It was Jin Yiwei's habit to enrich his own pockets when ransacking homes. But he couldn't say it clearly, so he could only vent it out to Qin Haishan afterwards. When the time comes, add 5 to 1, and everyone will make money. At this time, a congenital centurion, the commander, hurried over, saluted Xiao Wuji and Qin Haishan, and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, General, our people have found the location of the evil blood sect's arsenal." "Oh? Where?" Xiao Wuji and Qin Haishan's eyes lit up. Compared with gold and silver and other common things, magical secrets are obviously more attractive to them. The evil blood sect is not a small section. As a sect guarded by a great master, the evil blood sect is considered to be the top among the evil sects. For such a large sect that has been inherited for more than 100 years, the collection of magical secrets must be extraordinary. If nothing else, just say that the blood transformation technique is at least the 8th level. The soldier reported back. The arsenal is in the side hall of the evil blood sect, but there are mechanisms inside the arsenal. All our people died inside after entering. Is there such a thing? Qin Haishan frowned, looked at Xiao Wuji and said, "Xiao Qinhu, why don't we go and see it together?" Xiao Wuji nodded and said, "That's what I have in mind." Subsequently, Xiao Wuji and Qin Haishan arrived in front of the evil blood sect's arsenal. The evil blood sect's arsenal was a 4-story attic, which was far inferior to the Jin Yiwei's secret arsenal. There were 2 groups of soldiers outside the arsenal, and their expressions were somewhat expressionless at this moment. Pale, with cold sweat all over his forehead, he was obviously very frightened. Through the door, you could see 7 or 8 corpses lying in the arsenal. The corpses were all shot to death by cold arrows, and the skin on the surface of the corpses was black. Obviously they were poisoned. "Sir, General, the mechanisms inside are very powerful." Seeing the arrival of Xiao Wuji and Qin Haishan, a centurion immediately came forward and said with cupped hands. Qin Haishan snorted coldly and said, "No matter how powerful the mechanism is, it is just a dead thing. Without the control of a living person, it can still be used to some extent." Power. After saying that, Qin Haishan stepped down, crushing the bluestone floor and rushing into the arsenal. His soldiers were too late to stop him. The moment Qin Haishan turned over and landed on the ground, Xiao Wuji heard a clicking sound, which was a mechanism. The sound of starting. There was only a whooshing sound of breaking wind, and 20 or 30 feather arrows were shot from the surroundings towards Qin Haishan. The arrow clusters were sharp and pitch black, and they were obviously poisonous. Even if they could not kill people, they could still poison them. Qin Haishan swung his spear and knocked down all the arrows. At the same time, he listened to the sound and identified the location of the mechanism. The spear in his hand came out and shot into a wall like a sharp arrow coming off the string. There was a loud bang and the wall was directly hit. A big hole was made by the powerful real energy, and the mechanisms inside were also destroyed. Qin Haishan pulled out his spear and walked back and forth in the arsenal to confirm that the mechanisms on the first floor had been cracked. He then walked to the second, third, and fourth floors and removed all the mechanisms. All were destroyed. After confirming that there were no traps, Qin Haishan jumped down from the 4th floor and smiled at Xiao Wuji. "Xiao Qinhu, the trap has been cracked, you can go in." Xiao Wuji smiled and praised General Qin's exquisite marksmanship. "Is really eye-opening for me, Qin." Haishan was flattered and waved his hands and said Xiao Qinhu should not make fun of the general. The general's 3-legged cat skills are far inferior to Xiao Qinhu's. Qin Haishan didn't dare to praise Xiao Wuji. He knew that his own strength was far inferior to Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji's compliment to him was just a show of words to give him face. Qin Haishan didn't dare to push his nose in the face. He really felt that he was very strong. Afterwards, Xiao Wuji and Qin Haishan took people into the arsenal and took away all the martial arts secrets in the arsenal. On the first floor of the arsenal, there were all kinds of secrets. Xiao Wuji has no interest in reading the secrets of martial arts. And even wiping his butt feels awkward. The second level is the 3rd and 4th level secrets, the 3rd level is the 5th and 6th level secrets, and the 4th level is the 7th and 8th level secrets. Xiao Wuji was not interested in the first 3 levels, and only took a few more glances on the 4th level. The Evil Blood sect has 4 7th level martial arts, and 1 8th level martial arts. The 8th level martial arts is the blood transformation method. After getting the secret book of blood transformation, Xiao Wuji read it from beginning to end, frowned slightly, and gave up the idea of practicing. The blood transformation technique is a completely magical skill, and the most precise part is the practice of killing people. By practicing killing people and absorbing human body essence and blood, the progress of this martial arts can be said to be extremely fast. But at the same time, this magical skill also has many shortcomings. The first and most basic thing is that if you kill too many people, you will fall into the devil's path and become a public enemy of the martial arts. Secondly, if you absorb too much other people's essence and blood and cannot be refined, you will become possessed. The most important thing is that if you practice killing for a long time, you will be immersed in the pleasure of killing and unable to extricate yourself, so that you will develop inner demons. This inner demon may have been nothing before the Grand Master, but if you want to break through to the Grand Master realm, you must defeat the inner demon, otherwise you will become obsessed. At worst, his skills may decline and he may become a useless person. At worst, he will fall into madness, be controlled by inner demons, kill everyone on sight, and be unable to extricate himself. Finally, his power will be exhausted and he will die. Xiao Wuji closed the secret book, shook his head, threw it into Qin Haishan's hands casually, and said, "General Qin, let's take a look. If you are interested, you can practice it. But I still want to say one more thing about this technique. It's too evil and the practice is unknown. In fact, practicing killing people is an evil way for Xiao Wuji or other ordinary martial artists. After all, it is impossible for Xiao Wuji or ordinary warriors to kill too many people in this life. Being able to kill thousands of people is already extraordinary. But this is not the case for a veteran like Qin Haishan. Qin Haishan, a veteran of Sha 077, roamed the battlefield and killed countless people. The number of people he killed was dozens or hundreds of times that of Xiao Wuji. And there is no shortage of corpses on the battlefield. Even if Qin Haishan wasn't the one who killed him, he could still absorb the essence and blood of others to practice martial arts, which was much more effective than the blood-red clothes that killed civilians. If the blood transformation technique didn't have the drawback of going crazy, it would be the most suitable technique for a court general like Qin Haishan. Killing one is a crime, killing 10,000 is considered a hero. If you slaughter 9 million, you will be the hero among the heroes. Maybe, the blood transformation technique can really train a few people to slaughter them. After Qin Haishan read the blood transformation technique secret book, his eyes were blood red, he was extremely excited, and his fingers were trembling with excitement. But he quickly calmed down and his eyes returned to calm. He closed the secret book, sighed, shook his head and said, "Forget it, although this technique is powerful, it is too magical and not suitable for me." In just a moment, Qin Haishan was indeed attracted by the blood transformation technique. "I wish I could sit down cross-legged immediately and start practicing." Fortunately, his character was firm enough and he was not deceived by the magic power. Qin Haishan knows that haste makes waste. Although the blood transformation technique is powerful, he is not sure that he can control his inner demons, so he might as well not practice it. General Qin is very calm. Xiao Wuji sighed in admiration. To be honest, if Xiao Wuji didn't have a system, he might not be able to resist the temptation of the blood transformation technique. You know, this is an 8th level magical skill. If you practice it to a great extent, you can conquer the world, and if you practice it to perfection, you can breaking through the realm of Grand Master. Xiao Wuji can be sure that if the blood transforming method is thrown into the rivers and lakes, there will definitely be a bloody storm. I don't know how many people will go crazy because of the blood transforming method and kill each other. There are thousands of warriors in the rivers and lakes. 10,000, not many people can resist the temptation of the 8th level magic. Qin Haishan smiled bitterly when he heard this, shook his head and said, the general is indeed very tempted, but the general is timid. If you become obsessed with practicing the blood transforming method and become a murderer, your reputation in this life will be completely ruined. There is also the younger daughter Qin Wuo, who will also be cast aside by everyone in the world. Xiao Wuji nodded and said with a smile, it's really rare for General Qin to stick to his heart. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 172. Xiao Wuji said it's really rare for General Qin to stick to his heart. Well, here are 4 7th grade magical arts. If General Qin is interested, you can copy them and consider it as extra reward for this operation. Is it really possible? Qin Haishan was overjoyed. The 4 7th grade magical arts were a huge harvest for him. Of course, I still have this right. Okay, thank you Xiaoqianhu. Qin Haishan clasped his fists and saluted. After searching all the evil blood sect, the sky was completely dark. Xiao Wuji and his army rested for the night inside the evil blood sect's mountain gate, and then went down the mountain to return to the city the next day. On the way back to the city, all the Jinyi guards and soldiers were filled with joy. Not only because this operation had achieved great success, but also because Xiao Wuji had discussed with Qin Haishan how to handle the spoils last night. The two of them had already searched for them separately. Part of it? Of course, all the Jinyi guards and soldiers who participated in the operation had a share. The rest was escorted back to Beijing by Xiao Wuji and presented to Emperor Jingtai. Ha 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 ha, this battle was really enjoyable. It was all thanks to Xiaoqianhu. You must celebrate well after you return. General Mo will hold a banquet, and Xiaoqianhu must come to attend. On the way back, Qin Haishan rode on horseback and smiled at Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji smiled and nodded and said, General Qin is hosting a banquet, and I will definitely go. Then it's settled. Correct. Suddenly, Qin Haishan's voice changed and asked, I haven't asked yet, Xiaoqianhu is young and promising, has he ever married a wife and started a family? Xiao Wuji was stunned for a moment, feeling that these words sounded familiar. Doesn't Qin Haishan also want to marry his daughter to me? Xiao Wuji looked at Qin Haishan with a strange look, and immediately replied, I already have a fiancé. After returning to Beijing this time, we will get married. If General Qin is willing, you can come and have a glass of wedding wine. Ah! Already have a fiancé. A trace of regret flashed in Qin Haishan's eyes. After a few days of getting along, Qin Haishan was extremely satisfied with Xiao Wuji. He is handsome, young, and promising, has strong martial arts skills, and is in a high position without any arrogance and domineering air. He can be said to be a great Zhou, the most handsome man in the dynasty. If he could marry his daughter to such a handsome man, he would also have an explanation for his late wife. But he never expected that Xiao Wuji already had a fiancé and was about to get married. Qin Haishan loved his daughter. As fate would have it, she would never be married to someone else as a concubine. Therefore, she felt a little regretful that she could not meet Xiao Wuji earlier. Qin Haishan smiled dryly and said, Master Xiao must like his fiancée very much, right? Xiao Wuji nodded and said, Indeed, I like her very much. Then I would like to congratulate Xiaoqianhu. I wish Xiaoqianhu a happy family and a son soon. It's a pity that I won't be able to go to Xiaoqianhu's wedding. Qin Haishan, as the general of the Hanzhou camp, is not allowed to enter the capital without an edict, otherwise he will be guilty of conspiracy. Naturally, he will not be able to drink Xiao Wuji's wedding wine. Xiao Wuji said with a smile, as long as General Qin has his heart, it will be fine, whether he comes or not. It doesn't matter. Qin Haishan laughed loudly, that's right, that's right. On the official road, Xiao Wuji and Qin Haishan looked at each other and laughed. The laughter was loud and spread around. Suddenly, Xiao Wuji frowned, and immediately raised his hand and ordered, "Everyone, stop." The voice fell, and the army suddenly stopped advancing. Everyone looked at each other in confusion. Qin Haishan stopped his smile, frowned and asked, "What's the matter, Xiaoqianhu, what happened?" Xiao Wuji ignored Qin Haishan, looking straight ahead, and said coldly, "Someone is coming, there are quite a few of them, at least more than 1,000 people." "What? 1,000 people?" Qin Haishan's expression changed when he heard this. How could there be so many people here? Could it be a horse bandit? No, it shouldn't be. There are not so many horse bandits near Hanzhou city, and the largest force of horse bandits only has more than 200 people. Qin Haishan quickly denied his guess. As a general in Hanzhou city, no one knows the distribution of surrounding forces better than him. The largest force in Hanzhou city is naturally the Hanzhou camp, which has a stockpile of 30,000 soldiers and horses and is responsible for guarding it. Hanzhou, maintain public order in the surrounding area. The second most powerful force is naturally the Evil Blood section. There are more than 3,000 people in the sect, but they have already been wiped out. As for the others, they are just a group of mustard pests that cannot be overcome at all. Waves. Although Qin Haishan did not believe that a force of thousands of people would appear here for no reason, he did not doubt Xiao Wuji's judgment. He immediately raised his voice and ordered, "All troops are on alert and prepare to meet the enemy." As soon as the words fell, the army immediately spread out in formation, waiting for the enemy to arrive. Boom! 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 After a while, the dull sound of horse hooves sounded. Xiao Wuji saw smoke and dust in front of him, followed by a group of cavalry. The cavalry was followed by the infantry. Looking at the armor style, those people were clearly from the Hanzhou camp. Is it the Hanzhou camp army? Xiao Wuji frowned and looked at Qin Haishan next to him. You must know that Qin Haishan is the general of Hanzhou camp. The mobilization of the army, especially the mobilization of an army of more than 1,000 people, must have his military order. But Qin Haishan people are here, but the army in the city has come out. This is a troop movement without orders, and there must be something fishy in it. Qin Haishan's face was also livid at this moment. When he saw the Hanzhou camp army arriving, he had already figured out everything. This damn Yanita communist, this general will never spare him. Qin Haishan said bitterly. Although the voice was soft, Xiao Wuji heard it clearly and remembered the name Meishan Gong. It's not that Xiao Wuji has a good memory, but that this name is really unique. Just listen, once this happened, I will never forget it in this life. Xiao Wuji asked, who is this Mi Tiangong? Isn't he a subordinate of General Qin? Qin Haishan said, he is Mr. Qian under me. Xiao Wuji wondered, since he is General Qin's subordinate, why does he seem to be at odds with General Qin? Qin Haishan looked ugly, sighed, and said helplessly, although Mr. Yanita is my boss Qian, he has a great background and has always been in tit for tat with the general. He has been in Hanzhou city for 3 years. In these 3 years, he has won over many people and has been coveting the general's position as a general. This person's conduct was also despicable, and he did a lot of evil things, including using power to oppress others, oppressing good people, and engaging in corruption and bribery. Xiao Wuji said, since this person is so despicable, why doesn't General Qin get rid of him? Even if we don't get rid of him, we still have to transfer him. How can you allow others to sleep soundly next to your couch? If there is such a poisonous snake around you, it will definitely bite you one day. General Qin is raising tigers for trouble. How could the general not understand this truth? Qin Haishan shook his head and said, the general also wants to get rid of this scourge. He has reported to the court many times to expose this person's crimes to His Majesty, but all the memorials were in vain. The memorials sent back to Jinling were like mud cows entering the sea, and there was no news. The background behind this person is too great, and the general is really helpless. Qin Haishan shook his head and sighed, feeling deeply helpless. Oh? Big background? Who is behind this person? Xiao Wuji was also a little curious. Who could make Qin Haishan, a state general, helpless? There are not many such people. Qin Haishan looked at Xiao Wuji and said word by word the chief minister of the dynasty, Li Wenbo. When he heard the name Li Wenbo, Xiao Wuji's pupils shrank instantly. He hadn't heard this name for a long time. After all, Li Wenbo had never returned to Jinling since he went to Qingzhou for disaster relief. Even if Xiao Wuji sent his son Li Dingshan to beheading, Li Wenbo has been silent. Xiao Wuji has always been thinking about this old dog's head. He didn't expect to meet Li Wenbo's lackeys here. Xiao Wuji had long heard that Li Wenbo was colluding with the military officials of the DPRK. Officials, forming cliques for personal gain. I think this Hanzhou Qianzhou Meishan Gong is one of the generals Li Wenbo has attracted. If this Meishan Gong can really defeat Qin Haishan and become a general in Hanzhou city, it will indeed greatly increase the power in his hands. Hanzhou camp 30,000 soldiers and horses are not a small force. At that moment, a sneer appeared on the corner of Xiao Wuji's mouth. Whatever Li Wenbo wanted to do, Xiao Wuji would destroy it. This rice field was Li Wenbo's minions, and Xiao Wuji was heartbroken. He has the intention to kill. Now that he can't kill Li Wenbo, it's okay to get rid of his minions first, just like collecting interest. The rice fields are already a corpse in Xiao Wuji's eyes. Xiao Wuji looked at Qin Haishan and asked, since this person has a grudge against General Qin, is he also the one who asked Kishalu to assassinate Miss Qin Wu? Qin Haishan nodded and said he is indeed the most suspicious. The general has already thought of it. It's just that the general has no evidence and can't do anything to him. Besides, even if there is evidence to prove that Yanita is connected with the Kishalu killer, Yanita cannot be completely convicted and killed. With Li Wenbo as guarantor, unless Mi Tian commits major crimes such as disobedience to the emperor, disobedience to the imperial edict, or even conspiracy, nothing can be done against him. Having said this, Qin Haishan shook his head helplessly and sighed. Li Wenbo's methods are so powerful. Relying on Emperor Jingtai's favor for him, crimes such as corruption and bribery, forming cliques for personal gain, Li Wenbo can't do anything about it. Amazing, and the Meishan communists are like this. The crime of hiring Kishalu killer is even smaller. Before the imperial court, Li Wenbo only needs to say that Kishalu killer is not credible, and all the evidence will be overturned. It is precisely with Li Wenbo's backing that Yanita and this little thousand only then did he dare to confront Qin Haishan and even hire a killer to assassinate him. There was someone behind his back, so he was strong and courageous. Boom! 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 Horse hooves flew, yellow sand rolled, and the army of thousands of people finally arrived in front of Xiao Wuji. Huh! The leading general pulled the reins and immediately stopped riding his horse. The troops behind him also stopped at the same time, issuing orders and prohibitions. When Qin Haishan saw the leading general, he immediately took a step forward on his horse and roared, "The rice fields are together, what are you doing? Who allowed you to lead the army out of the city? You actually dare to lead troops out of the city privately without my general's military orders. Are you going to rebel?" Qin Haishan cursed loudly, and immediately threw out a big label of rebellion and put it on the head of the Yongtian Communist Party. It must be said that Qin Haishan is a military general, but he is well versed in officialdom, and his ability to label him is no less than that of civilian officials. This recruiting someone first is very useful. After hearing Qin Haishan's angry scolding, the general named Meishan Gong did not show any fear. Instead, he smiled indifferently and said, "General Qin led his troops out of the city yesterday. After not returning home all night, his subordinates led troops out of the city to rescue him because they were worried about the general. This subordinate is extremely loyal. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 173. Qin Haishan smiled sarcastically and said, "So, I, the general, still want to thank you." Yanida shrugged his shoulders and said with a smile, "That's no need. My subordinates are loyal to their duties. These are all things that are within the scope of Qin's duties." Haishan's expression froze, and his chest heaved with anger. Xiao Wuji also admired Mi Tiangong's thick skin. Qin Haishan was obviously mocking him, but he was able to calm down and talk to himself, which was really amazing. However, in the officialdom, such thick-skinned people tend to get along better. After all, people are shameless and invincible in the world. Okay, you've seen it, now lead your troops back immediately. Also, if you send troops out of the city privately and violate military orders, go get the 70 military sticks yourself. Qin Haishan said mercilessly. Mi Tiangong laughed and said if a subordinate makes a mistake, he will naturally be punished. But if a general makes a mistake, will he also be punished? Qin Haishan's face was gloomy, and he gritted his teeth and said, "What do you mean?" Yanida said with a sneer on his lips. "If my subordinate remembers correctly, the general has not received the military order to mobilize troops, right? I wonder why the general suddenly mobilized 2,000 troops out of the city yesterday. Judging from the way the general and other soldiers were covered in blood, they must have killed a lot of people, right? Now I suspect that the general is guilty of killing good people and taking advantage of his merits, and of setting up troops to plunder." Mi Tiangong's eyes were cold, like a poisonous snake, staring at Qin Haishan. With this big hat off, although it is not as good as the rebellion, it is enough for Qin Haishan to drink a pot. Qin Haishan suddenly became furious. "Yanida communists, how dare you slander this general? Do you really think that this general doesn't dare to kill you?" Qin Haishan swiped the long gun in his hand, and the force of the gun shot out of the air, immediately creating a crack in the ground under his feet. The BMW on the crotch of Yon Tian was frightened, and suddenly let out a neighing sound. "This is to kill 687 people and silence them." Qin Haishan's eyes widened, and he said in a deep voice, "How do I act, General? Do I need to explain to you, the little Mr. Qian? Mr. Yanida, you wantonly slandered Shangguan, and the crime is aggravated. This is not something that can be solved by a small 70 army stick. Following the holy will." When Yon Tiangong heard this, his expression changed. He immediately looked at the soldiers beside him, but the soldiers immediately lowered their heads and did not dare to look at Yanida Gong. It was obvious that Yanida Gong had not received any news about the holy will. No matter, it was Xiao Wuji and Qin Haishan both kept confidentiality very well. Even the 2,000 soldiers brought by Qin Haishan did not know until they arrived at the foot of Ilong Mountain that their mission was to exterminate the evil blood sect. "Humph, you said that if you follow the holy will, you will follow the holy will? This general doesn't believe it." Yanida was unwilling to give in, and still refused to give in. He shouted coldly, "Since it is the holy will, then please come out with the holy decree and let the general have a look, so that the general can be convinced. If it cannot be produced, then General Qin will be suspected of falsely passing on the imperial edict." Mr. Yanida bit back and threw another big hat. Falsely conveying the imperial edict is a crime of conspiracy. The crime is much greater than killing good people for deeds and looting. Qin Haishan's face was so gloomy that water could drip from his face. To convey the edict, what he meant was Xiao Wuji, and it was an oral edict. How could he have an imperial edict? Seeing Qin Haishan hesitate to move forward, Mi Tiangong's eyes widened, his expression ecstatic, as if he had really caught Qin Haishan's hand, and he shouted, "Bold Qin Haishan, you dare to falsely preach the imperial edict. What crime should you be guilty of? The holy will is here. At the critical moment, Xiao Wuji spoke, and at the same time he took a step forward and stood side by side with Qin Haishan. Who are you? Mi Tiangong frowned and stared at Xiao Wuji. He was very sure that he did not know Xiao Wuji. He had been fighting with Qin Haishan for 3 years, and he knew Qin Haishan well. Qin Haishan was familiar with him. There is absolutely no such person among the people. Qin Haishan showed a proud expression and said, "This is the royal guard Kinhu of Fuzi in Bijan, the 13 Taibao of Dazhu, Mr. Xiao Wuji." 13 Taibao. Xiao Wuji. Midian Gong's face changed greatly when he heard this. Obviously, he had also heard of Xiao Wuji's name. The 13 Taibao of the Great Zhou dynasty, the current top one on the earth ranking, a half-step great master, a meritorious official who captured the king and rescued him. The famous man in front of the emperor. No matter which identity he was, Xiao Wuji could crush him to death, even a small General Qian. Xiao Wuji took out the Jinyue token and pointed it at Mi Tiangong, and said coldly, "Here is the Jinyue token, General Mi. Do you want to check the authenticity? Let's see if I'm fake." Yanita's face froze, and he laughed dryly and said, don't dare, Mr. Xiao is joking." The subordinates, Mi Tiangong, "See Mr. Xiao. I didn't know your identity before, so I bumped into you, and I hope you can atone for your sins." He dared to show his teeth to Qin Haishan, but he didn't dare to offend Xiao Wuji. This is a ruthless man who has killed the great master, and his strength is far superior to him. What if I am a fake Jinyue? Even if I am a real Jinyue, what if I falsely pass on the imperial edict? Don't dare, the adults are joking. Maishan got off his horse, came to Xiao Wuji, bowed and saluted, and said respectfully, "Xiaoqin, whose reputation has spread far and wide, and the generals have heard about it for a long time. It was the general's fault that I bumped into Mr. Kinhu today. I hope Mr. Xiao Kinhu is more generous and can spare the general once." Xiao Wuji did not look at Maishan Gong, but looked at Qin Haishan next to him, and asked lightly, "General Qin, I don't know how to collide with the angels and ignore the holy will. What crime should I do?" Qin Haishan understood what Xiao Wuji meant, smiled ferociously, and said in a cold voice, "It is a crime of great disrespect to collide with an angel and ignore the holy will. You should be beheaded in public as a warning to others." Xiao Wuji came to exterminate the evil blood sect on the order of the emperor. He carries the holy will, so he is naturally an angel. When Yanita collided with him, he collided with an angel, which is completely different from the collision with Jinyue Kinhu. Speaking more seriously, this alone is enough to convict Yanita Kyo of a major crime of disrespect. Furthermore, Yanita Kao dares to doubt the authenticity of the holy will, which is even more serious. The two crimes are punished at the same time, and Yanita Kao's head is chopped off. It's not an exaggeration. When Mi Tian heard the conversation between Xiao Wuji and Qin Haishan, he was so frightened that his liver and gallbladder split. His forehead was covered with cold sweat. He immediately knelt on the ground, kowtowed to Xiao Wuji and confessed, "The general really doesn't know that the angel is here, therefore, it is indeed the general's fault to collide with an angel. But those who don't know are not guilty. I hope Xiaoqin will spare the last time for the sake of the chief minister." Xiao Wuji narrowed his eyes, flashed a cold light, looked at Mi Tiangong and said coldly, "You want to use Li Wenbo to suppress me. The general will not dare." Yanita stood up and clasped his fists, gritted his teeth and said, "Master Xiao has a high position and authority, but the last general is the disciple of the chief assistant. If Xiaoqin punishes me for no reason, the chief assistant's face will not look good. I hope that Mr. Xiao will look at the face of Mr. Chief Assistant and spare the general once, and that the general will be willing to apologize. I wonder what Mr. Xiao thinks." Having said this, the confidence of the Yontian party members suddenly increased, and their backs straightened up. The first assistant, Li Wenbo, has all the power in the government and the opposition. One person is less than 10,000 people, which is his greatest confidence. Today's matter is very big, but it is still small. If Xiao Wuji is willing, he can easily expose it. Meishan believes that Xiao Wuji will not offend Li Wenbo rashly because of what happened today. Besides, he has already given in and is willing to offer an apology. Xiao Wuji had no reason to hold on to him. After all, Xiao Wuji and he had never met each other, and they had no grievances, so there was no reason to be unyielding to him. But Yon Tian had mistakenly thought, precisely because the person behind him was Li Wenbo, so only then did Xiao Wuji insist on dealing with him. Xiao Wuji looked at Mi Tiangong and suddenly smiled, but his smile was very cold, with a certain amount of sarcasm and a certain amount of disdain. You actually dare to use Li Wenbo to pressure me. It seems that you really don't understand me. Xiao Wuji said coldly, I have never tolerated sand in my eyes. If you just confessed your crime happily, I might still be lenient and forgive you the death penalty. But you actually dare to threaten me and bribe me face to face, so don't blame me for being ruthless. Yanita Kyo, you are dead today, no one can save you. Yanita was frightened, his face was pale and he was trembling. Are you really not afraid of offending Mr. Chief Assistant? Xiao Wuji sneered. Li Wenbo, is he very powerful? Do I need to be afraid of him? Behind me is Xia Yongxuan, the commander of the Jinyi Guards. Ask Li Wenbo, do I need to be afraid of him? These words frightened Mr. Yondan so much that he was stunned on the spot. His mind went blank and he couldn't utter a word. Indeed, Li Wenbo had all the power in the court of Zhou dynasty. He could be said to dominate the sky with one hand. But there are still a few people who are not afraid of Li Wenbo. It just so happens that Xia Yongxuan is one of them. Xia Yongxuan, the commander of Jin Yiwei, is Li Wenbo's biggest enemy. He wants to get rid of Li Wenbo for more than a day or two. With Xia Yongxuan's support, and Xiao Wuji's rationale, even if he kills the rice fields today, Li Wenbo can't do anything. You can talk about it? Isn't it just about fighting for background? Who is afraid of whom? Besides, Xiao Wuji himself has a blood feud with Li Wenbo. As a lackey of Li Wenbo, this Mi Tiangong has already had something to gain since he came in front of Xiao Wuji. The way to die. Xiao Wuji was worried that he couldn't find a suitable reason to kill him. It would be a waste to assassinate a mere Qian boss. I never expected that this idiot, Mr. Yontian, would take the initiative to hand over the handle to Xiao Wuji. He clashed with the angel and ignored it. Shenji, not only did he not repent, he actually dared to bring out Li Wenbo to exonerate himself, and even bribed him in public. Even if this matter came to Emperor Jingtai, this Mi Tiangong would be dead. Idiot, don't call me by this name in the next life. Together, Yon and Tian are the word for shit. Your brain is really just like your name, it's full of shit. After speaking, Xiao Wuji pointed out. The strong finger force shot out of the air, instantly piercing Yon Tiangong's forehead and eyebrows, leaving a bloody hole on it. You. Yanita's eyes were rounded, his expression dull, and the depths of his eyes were full of fear and disbelief. He didn't expect that Xiao Wuji actually dared to kill him without any hesitation. How dare he? I am a subordinate of Chief Assistant Li Wenbo. But no one could answer his question. With the loss of consciousness, the symbiotic vitality of rice fields is rapidly lost. With a pop, Yanita's body fell to the ground. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 174. If you can die under Lingzi's finger, you deserve to die. Xiao Wuji retracted his sword finger and showed no expression on his face. He looked so calm and gentle, as if he was killing an ant instead of Mr. Qian. Xiao, Mr. Xiao, are you going to kill me now? Qin Haishan next to him was stunned, and thousands of soldiers around him were also stunned. A group of soldiers were silent, feeling a cold air running from their heels to the back of their heads. All the soldiers lowered their heads, not daring to look at Xiao Wuji again. Mi Tian, many of the 1,000 soldiers brought with them were so frightened that they knelt on the ground. They were afraid that they would also be mercilessly killed by Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji dared to kill even President Jian, let alone them. As for resistance, revenge, they don't even dare to think about it. Not to mention that Xiao Wuji's identity is Qinhu, a member of the Imperial Guard, and he has the Holy Will. Killing him is tantamount to rebellion. As far as Xiao Wuji's strength is concerned, even if 1,000 of them swarm up, it may not be possible. He is Xiao Wuji's opponent. The only ones who can maintain their composure at this moment are Shuihua, Song Liman and other Jin Yiwei. Only they understand Xiao Wuji's character best. If you dare to be presumptuous in front of Xiao Wuji, you will die. Xiao Wuji looks at it. The corpse of Yanita Kyo said expressionlessly, you clashed with the angel, ignored the holy will, and dared to bribe me. This person deserves death. I killed him in accordance with the laws of Dazhu. Is there any problem? Qin Haishan shook his head repeatedly and said, no problem, Mr. Xiao killed well. This bully is domineering, arrogant, and has committed numerous crimes. He should have died long ago. Xiao Qinhu killed this beast to eliminate a harm to Hanzhou, and he will be extremely grateful. After saying that, Qin Haishan bowed respectfully to Xiao Wuji. In the past few days, Qin Haishan felt that although Xiao Wuji was in a high position, he was kind and easy to get along with. But after what happened just now, he felt that Xiao Wuji was very nice. It's scary. If you offend him, I'm afraid it won't end well. Let's go back to Hanzhou. Xiao Wuji pulled the reins and spurred the horse forward. Qin Haishan was stunned for a moment, waved his hand, and asked his 2 men to collect the corpses from the rice field, and then led others to follow. Looking at Xiao Wuji's back, Qin Haishan felt something in his heart. He had endless feelings, but didn't know where to start. He didn't expect that Mi Tian, who had been fighting with him for 3 years, would die so easily. Things are really unpredictable. Back in Hanzhou City, Qin Haishan set up a banquet was held in honor of Xiao Wuji. The food and wine were the best, and the singing girl who accompanied him was brought by Qin Haishan from the largest brothel in Hanzhou. It was a banquet, and the guests and hosts had a great time. At noon the next day, Xiao Wuji said goodbye to Qin Haishan immediately. He led people to transport the evil blood sex loot back to the capital. Outside Hanzhou City, Qin Haishan personally brought Qin Wuo to see Xiao Wuji off. Xiao Wuji sat on horseback, looked at Qin Haishan and said with a smile, General Qin doesn't need to send him off. And if we send it further, we will reach Jinling City. Qin Haishan laughed loudly and said, if possible, I would really like to take someone to escort Xiao Qinhu back to the capital. Xiao Wuji said. I have sent you off for 1,000 miles, but I have to say goodbye eventually. General Qin, please come back. Qin Haishan clasped his fists and said. General, I'm here to wish you a safe journey. Xiao Wuji replied, we will meet again later. After saying that, Xiao Wuji rode forward and left with a group of royal guards. His back gradually faded away and soon disappeared on the official road. Seeing Xiao Wuji leave, Qin Haishan couldn't help but sigh. He always felt a little regretful. Qin Wuo next to him asked, why did my father sigh? Wasn't this incident of annihilating the evil blood sect successfully completed? Father can just wait for the reward from the court. The black sheep of the Anita family has also been eliminated, so my father should be happy. Qin Haishan said, the reason why I sigh for my father is not because of this, but because Xiao Qinhu is about to get married. Such a good candidate for son-in-law has slipped away from his father's nose. Can the father not sigh? Qin Wuo rolled her eyes at Qin Haishan and said speechlessly, Father, didn't my daughter say that she really doesn't like Xiaoqianhu? Qin Haishan said helplessly. Then what kind of man do you like? In the past, you often said that you should act chivalrously, eliminate harm for the people, and become a generation of female heroes. Is it possible that you like young heroes from the martial arts world? But among the young heroes in the world, which one can compare with Xiaoqianhu? Even among the geniuses on the Qianlong list, none of them can compare with Xiaoqianhu. 108 people put together were not enough for Xiaoqianhu to kill alone. Qin Huo shook her head helplessly, not wanting to talk to her father anymore, and rode back on her own. Qin Haishan chased after him and asked loudly, "Daughter, what do you like? As long as you tell me, father will definitely find it for you. If he doesn't want to, his father will kidnap him even if he is kidnapped. If you don't get married, how will your father explain to your underwhelming mother?" Qin Huo was annoyed by Qin Haishan's questions, so she just said, "I don't like men, I like women. Can father find one for me?" "Ah, like women?" Qin Haishan was stunned for a moment, his mind was a little dull, and he thought he heard wrongly. Seeing Qin Huo walking away, he quickly chased after him. "Daughter, are you telling the truth or lies? Don't scare me. I can't stand your father." Qin Huo said, "Really? Ah, this is how to do?" Qin Haishan panicked. "Don't worry, daughter, my father will find a famous doctor for you right away, and he will definitely cure you." At this time, Qin Huo said again, "Dad, my daughter is joking with you, why do you take it seriously?" Qin Haishan was confused again. He was confused by whether this was true or false. His heart couldn't bear it. "Daughter, tell your father honestly, do you really like men?" "Real." The voices of the two people gradually drifted away and disappeared quickly. After leaving Hanzhou City, Xiaoji and his party walked slower than when they came. After all, this time he went back with a large amount of trophies. There were quite a lot of trophies looted from the evil blood sect. Not to mention the magical secrets, Xiaoji didn't take any of those below the third level, and just burned them. The secrets of the third level and above were added together. It doesn't weigh much. But the gold, silver, jewelry, and weapons all have to be transported back. These things together are quite heavy, and they can contain 40 or 50 large boxes. Although there are army horses to deliver them, at the end of the day, at most it can only cover a distance of 60 or 70 miles. Xiaoji often lamented these days that it is not a good thing to have too much gold and silver treasure. Just transporting it back would take a lot of effort. It was a hard journey and we walked continuously. After 12 days, they finally crossed the boundary between the two counties and arrived at Guanyang County. On this day, Xiaoji and his party passed by the Qilian Mountains in Guanyang County. Rumble. Thunder suddenly sounded in the sky, and the original blue sky with white clouds suddenly changed. The wind suddenly rose, the dark clouds gathered, the thunder roared, and then came the violent storm. Raindrops as big as beans poured down, and the downpour instantly drenched Shuehua, Song Liman, and others into drowned rats. Xiaoji opened the protection in time. The body's true energy formed an invisible true energy barrier, blocking the heavy rain falling from the sky. Only then did he survive the disaster. Damn it, this god is really a monkey. The weather changes at any time, without any preparation for us. Shuehua looked up at the sky, wiped the rain off his face, and cursed in a low voice. Song Liman also smiled bitterly at the side. It's raining so hard that it's impossible to go on the road. It's better to find a place to take shelter quickly. Although the two of them have broken through the innate realm and can release the true energy, they cannot use the true energy to protect the body like Xiaoji to isolate the rain. The little innate true energy in their bodies will be exhausted in a few minutes. As for the other Jin Yiwei, they looked even more embarrassed. Each of them was soaked in the rain by the heavy rain, and they could hardly open their eyes. Moreover, When the heavy rain rushed in, the road suddenly became muddy, and the speed of the convoy was even slower. In ancient times, the official roads are all relatively flat dirt roads, but there are no cement roads. They were all destroyed by the heavy rain. Xiao Wuji glanced at the rain curtain in front of him and said, "Fang Huohua, go ahead and see if there is any shelter from the rain place. Wait for this heavy rain to pass before continuing on your way." "Yes, I obey." A guard general behind him listened to the order and immediately rode his horse into the rain to explore the way ahead. Xiao Wuji and his party followed behind. Soon, Fang Huohua came back and said that he had found an abandoned inn. Xiao Wuji and his party resting at the inn, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Damn, this rain is too heavy. I wonder how long it will continue to rain. Shuehua stood aside, took off his clothes and squeezed out the water. Then he had someone clean a clean place and lit a few fires for Xiao Wuji to rest. Xiao Wuji looked at everyone and said, "This is the boundary of Guanyang Group. Listen. It is said that it has been very chaotic recently, and there are many horse bandits entrenched around the Qilian Mountains. You should all be more vigilant and don't be careless." Shuehua, Song Liman and others solemnly nodded and said, "We understand, sir." Xiao Wuji is right. The boundaries of Guanyang are indeed in chaos. After the bandits, lawless elements, and killers from the two states flee, most of them will flee into the Qilian Mountains. There are also many bandits, mountain bandits, and horse bandits in the Qilian Mountains. Coupled with the floods in Qingzhou some time ago, many of the refugees could not survive and turned into bandits. They also entrenched in the Qilian Mountains and robbed passers-by. Today's Qilian Mountains can be said to be full of horse bandits and robbers in the mountains. Passers-by, if the caravan is wise and pays the toll, it may be able to leave safely. Although it has lost money, it has saved its life. If it encounters a fierce horse bandit who wants to rob money and kill people, it will be a loss of talents when Xiao Wuji and his party entered the Qilian mountain boundary of Guanyang Group. They were already targeted by a group of powerful horse bandits. "Get out of the way, get out of the way, I want good news to report to the master." On a hilltop in the Qilian Mountains, there was a small cottage built. At this time, a lean one-eyed man pushed aside several horse bandits guarding the door and rushed into the lobby of the cottage. Big boss, a fat sheep has come." As soon as the lean one-eyed man rushed into the lobby of the cottage, he shouted loudly, "I saw it right this time. It's a big fat sheep. The kind I haven't encountered in several years. What are you yelling about? Calm down." Sitting in the main seat in the lobby of the cottage is a bearded man with a bare upper body. His beard is intertwined, as if it has not been washed for a long time, and the roots are like towering steel needles. What is strange is that although his beard is lush, he is bald, and there is a scar on his head. The bald man's chest is also covered with scars, and he looks extremely ferocious and terrifying. The bald man is the boss of this village. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 175. The headmaster looked at the lean one-eyed man and said in a low voice, "Third brother, there is a fat sheep coming, just take someone to kill it." It was still the old rules, all the men were killed, the women were captured and taken back to the village, and all the gold and silver treasures were brought back. After saying that, the big boss waved his hand and asked the lean man to leave. But the lean man said this time is different. This time it is a super fat sheep, and the big boss needs to personally take action. The lean man's eyes shone brightly and he said, "I saw that the goods contained 40 or 50 large boxes, and they were transported by 70 or 80 horses. The people escorting the goods were all warriors, maybe bodyguards." "Escort? Can you see the escort flag?" The headmaster frowned and asked. The lean man shook his head and said, "It was raining so hard that I didn't see it clearly. Maybe it was put away." The boss asked again, How many people are there in total? The lean man said there are about 70 or 80 people, less than 100 people. Less than 100 people. The headmaster's eyes lit up, he touched his bald head, his eyes narrowed, and the corners of his mouth gradually he showed a ferocious sneer. There are only 70 or 80 people, and each of our brothers can drown them with just a spit of spit. If the cavalry were allowed to charge, they would be defeated with just one charge. That is to say, the boss. The lean man said excitedly, they are resting at the abandoned inn at the foot of the mountain. If we go now, we can kill them and catch them off guard. Let's do it, boss. Yes, the boss, give the order quickly. This is a once-in-a-lifetime big fat sheep. If the news is leaked, it will be snatched away by others. Change will happen later, the master. In the lobby of the cottage, the other leaders spoke one after another with fiery eyes. Just thinking about the 40 or 50 large boxes of goods made them excited. How much gold and silver can be packed in so many boxes? Maybe after this one vote and they won't have to start construction for years. Damn it! The boss touched his bald head and shouted coldly, third brother, go find the second brother, the fifth child and the sixth child. All 500 people in the village are dispatched to catch this fat sheep in one fell swoop. All 500 people dispatched? You don't need so much, right? The lean man frowned. There are only more than 500 people in their village. If they are all dispatched, the village will be empty. The boss said, of course you don't need so many people to kill a group of fat sheep. What I'm afraid of is Yan Lao-san next to him. Have a hand. If that bastard gets the news, he will definitely come and steal business from us. I don't want to be benefited by his fishermen. The leaders nodded when they heard this, and said with admiration, the boss is wise. The sky was dark and it was raining heavily. There was lightning and thunder in the sky. Occasionally, huge lightning pierced the sky and tore the clouds apart, as if the sky was divided into two. Who is this master who is here to overcome the tribulation? Xiao Wuji stood at the window of the inn, standing with his hands behind his hands, looking up at the sky, and smiled faintly. In the realm of martial arts, the unity of heaven and man is not the end. Above the unity of heaven and man, there is broken void. According to legend, thousands of years ago, there was broken void. The strong ones in the void broke the shackles of heaven and earth and became immortals. And those strong ones in the shattered void had to endure the thunder tribulation when they ascended. This is the test of heaven for those who ascend, and it is also an opportunity. Only after going through the thunder tribulation can the physical body be transformed, allowing the physical body to withstand the damage caused by ascension. However, no shattered void warrior has appeared for thousands of years. These relevant messages were seen by Xiao Wuji in the Jinyue archives room, and it is not known whether they are true or false. Perhaps it is just speculation by future generations. Maybe it's fabricated. Suddenly, Xiao Wuji frowned, and his eyes suddenly looked towards the rain curtain in front of him, with an icy cold light flashing in his eyes. What's the matter, sir? Xuehua and Song Liman noticed the change in Xiao Wuji's face and immediately came up to ask. Xiao Wuji said expressionlessly, let the brothers prepare to meet the enemy. A guest is coming. What? Does anyone really dare to rob us? Xuehua and Song Liman couldn't believe it. You know, they are Jin Yiwei. Why are the robbers so brave? They dare to rob even Jin Yiwei? Are they desperate? Xiao Wuji said, we are not wearing FEU uniforms. In addition, it is raining heavily at the moment and the view is blocked. Who can recognize that we are Jin Yiwei? Xuehua and Song Liman nodded silently, and then immediately led everyone to be on guard and prepare to meet the enemy. Many Jin Yiwei were a little angry. What the hell, they were actually targeted by a group of unscrupulous robbers. If the news came back to Bijin Fuzi, he will definitely become a laughing stock. Boom. 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 Suddenly, the ground began to shake, and the sound of horses neighing came from the rain curtain in front of them. Everyone only saw a group of figures tearing through the rain curtain, rushing towards the abandoned inn. There were horse teams in front of them, following the horse bandits on foot behind the cavalry. Xiao Wuji roughly inferred that there were at least 500 people. There are quite a lot of people. 500 horse bandits are no longer a small force. I am afraid that this group of horse bandits is one of the best in the Qilian Mountains. And being able to control 500 people proves that even the weakest boss of this group of horse bandits is an innate master. Brothers, kill these fat sheep. Eat meat. Kill them all, leave no one alive. Ha 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 ha. The horse bandits haven't arrived yet, but their ferocious laughter has already been heard. Xiao Wuji ordered in a cold voice, Zhu Jinyi guards formation, leave no one behind. Yes. Shuehua, Song Liman, and others all shouted angrily, and more than 80 Jinyi guards rushed out of the inn. The leader of the horse bandits laughed ferociously when he saw these fat sheep taking the initiative to attack. You guys, let me kill them. Yes. The cavalry swarmed up and rushed towards Shuehua, Song Liman, and others. However, many Jinyaiwei did not confront the horse bandits head-on, but separated directly. They either jumped onto the big tree, or jumped onto the roof, or rushed to both sides. In short, formed a semicircle to surround the horse bandits. Then all the Jinyi guards took out a repeating crossbow from their waists. Everyone moved in unison and fired arrows at the same time. Whoosh! 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 A series of wind-breaking sounds sounded. Countless crossbow arrows tore through the rain curtain and shot into the horse bandits. Ah! Along with a series of screams, the horse bandits fell one after another after being hit by arrows. Jinyaiwei uses the Zhuzhlian specially made by the imperial court, which can quickly fire 10 crossbow arrows and can be quickly reloaded after shooting. The most lethal force is within the range of 30 to 50 steps, which is very suitable for small groups of troops to fight. At this moment, although it is not equipped with chi-breaking light feather arrows, it is more than enough to kill a group of small horse bandits. Be careful, they are not ordinary escorts. The leader of the horse bandits split a few crossbow arrows and shouted a warning. He could see that these people in front of him were by no means ordinary bodyguards. The bodyguards could not be so well trained and cooperate with each other tacitly. Besides, these people actually have Zhuzhlian. After several rounds of continuous shooting, hundreds of horse bandits were killed, and corpses were everywhere. The red blood had dyed the rain on the ground red. After that, the Jinyaiwei launched a large formation and rushed into the horse bandits. The 3 Jinyaiwei team, one person is responsible for defense, one person is responsible for offense, and one person is responsible for commanding the overall situation and guarding against sneak attacks. At the same time, the groups can also cooperate closely with each other. 3 people can form a formation, 9 people can form a formation, 27 people can also form a formation. Most of these horse bandits have only third-rate and second-rate strength. They only practice martial arts in the streets and have no special training. How can they be the opponents of Jinyaiwei? Therefore, as soon as the 2 sides fought, the horse bandits were killed and defeated. The leader of the horse bandits was furious, but there was nothing he could do. At this moment, 2 rays of sword light tore through the rain curtain and struck head-on towards the headmaster. The visitors are clearly Shuehua and Song Liman. An innate master. The eldest master was startled, and he quickly swung his knife to block it. There was only a clang sound, and the 3 knives collided together. The eldest master's jaw was torn open, and blood immediately splattered. The horse under his crotch let out a mournful cry and turned sideways. Fell. At this moment, the headmaster finally discovered that Shuehua and Song Liman were using Xiaochun Dao. Damn it, these people are actually Jinyaiwei. Damn it, that idiot, the third child, said they were a group of big fat sheep. They were just a group of tigers that ate people without spitting out their bones. The eldest master was full of remorse, and he even wanted to kill the third child. At this moment, the eldest master's fear surged into his heart, and he already wanted to quit. He was just a horse bandit leader, how could he dare to rob Jinyaiwei? But at this moment it was too late to regret. Shuihua and Song Liman would not let him escape. After the two succeeded in one move, they immediately pursued the victory. The two turned over at the same time, one kicked the big master's saber away, and the other kicked the big master in the chest. Only hearing a click, the eldest master's sternum was kicked off, and he flew several feet away, spitting out a mouthful of blood in mid-air. Big boss. Seeing that the big boss was beaten away, several leaders began to panic. Of course, Shuihua and Song Liman would not miss the opportunity to beat up the drowned dog. They flew up and slashed down with their swords at the same time. Xian Tian Tianyuan exploded, turned into the scorching hot sword energy, which was the extreme yang slash of the three yang sword techniques. It was also the three yang sword techniques, and when Xiao Wuji performed it, it was like the sun rising in the sky, with infinite power. But the two of them could only burst out the scorching hot sword chi, and there was a huge gap. Big. But it was obviously enough to deal with a mere horse bandit leader. Two sword lights passed by, and the head of the master of the cottage suddenly flew up. The headless body collapsed, splashing a large amount of blood. 5.7 The master is dead. Run. These people are Jinyaiwei. Grandpas of Jinyaiwei, have mercy on us, we will never dare to do it again. The horse bandits turned into birds and beasts and fled in all directions. Because on their way to escape, a young man appeared, and it was Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji stood there, with heavy rain pouring down, but it did not wet him at all. One knife when it slashed down, sword light poured out from the sky, instantly covering the fleeing horse bandits. This sword was clearly Xiao Wuji's latest magic sword, dominating the world. The sword light was everywhere, blood, and countless flesh and blood. Splattered in all directions, bones and flesh were separated. Wherever the sword hit, horse bandits, big trees, rocks, and rain curtains were all split, chopped, and swept away. With just one sword, 70 or 80 people were killed. Dominate the world, and talk about it? The power may not be as powerful as the 6 arts of Aehan, but its killing range is very large. A single knife attack can cause death or death. Xiao Wuji rushed into the horse bandits. The lights of the swords lit up, and the broken limbs and arms flew around, and he screamed again and again. This the horse bandits saw the most beautiful sword light in their lives, and also saw the coldest sword light in their lives. They were so desperate that they could only close their eyes and wait for death. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 176. At this moment, the downpour in the sky stopped, and time seemed to have stopped. After images flashed by in an instant, Xiao Wuji killed from one end to the other, then turned a corner and killed another carbine. Finally, with the final blow, Xiao Wuji stopped killing. Blood flowed from the blade of swaying Quangdao, and was instantly frozen into blood clots and fell off. Finally, the heavy rain fell again. There was not a single living person standing behind Xiao Wuji, and more than 300 horse bandits were dead, with no one left alive. It sounds slow, but it's actually just the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, the killing is over. If you can be killed by the tyrants in the world, your life will not be in vain. Xiao Wuji's eyes were cold, he held the sword in his hand and sheathed it. The heavy rain from the sky poured down, washing the broken limbs and countless flesh and blood on the ground. The rain fell to the ground and turned into blood. Even if the heavy rain poured down, it could not wash away the smell of blood. Grown-ups! Grown-ups! Xuehua and Song Liman came behind Xiao Wuji and saluted respectfully, with a look of awe on their faces. At this moment, Xiao Wuji still had cold murderous intent on his body, making them tremble uncontrollably. Both of them sighed in their hearts, his master's strength is getting more and more terrifying, and his murderous intent is getting stronger and stronger. Xiao Wuji turned his head and glanced deep into the woods, then withdrew his gaze and said calmly, "You guys clean up, I'll be back soon." After the words fell, Xiao Wuji turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared into the rain curtain. "What are you doing here, sir? Are there still horse bandits?" Xuehua and Song Liman were confused, but they both obeyed Xiao Wuji's order. While cleaning up the battlefield, they sent people to guard the surroundings. On the other side, on the official road at the foot of Qilian Mountain, a group of horse bandits were running for their lives. There were about 300 to 400 people. At this moment, the faces of this group of horse bandits were full of fear, and everyone's eyes were wide open. They were all trying their best to escape, and they only regretted that their parents would have less children. 2 legs. The leader of the village was riding on horseback, whipping the horse's butt hard with a whip. He was very anxious and looked back from time to time. If the leader of the horse bandit who died earlier was here, he would definitely recognize this horse bandit. The leader is his old rival, Yan Lao-san. Hurry, hurry up. Damn it, I really stepped on shit today, how could I meet such a murderous god? Yan Lao-san's whole body was already soaked, but what soaked him was not the rain, but the cold sweat. Yan Lao-san also received the news that there were fat sheep at the foot of the mountain today, so he wanted to come down and have a go. When he learned that someone had taken the lead, still aggrieved, thinking about rushing forward to become a fisherman and get a share of the pie. Then he saw the scene where Xiao Wuji killed more than 300 horse bandits with one sword. Those terrifying sword lights were deeply imprinted in his mind. Here, I will never forget it in this life. Xiao Wuji killed 300 people, just like killing 300 ants. Yan Lao-san had never seen such a terrifying master in his life, and he had no idea of resistance. After coming back to his senses, Yan Lao-san had only one thought, and that was to escape. When faced with such a murderous god, even 100 lives would not be enough to kill him. Hurry up, hurry up. Yan Lao-san looked horrified and galloped on his horse. But at this moment, a bolt of lightning passed by him at an alarming speed and rushed in front of him in an instant. The lightning fell on the top of a big tree. Xiao Wuji reveals his true identity. This murderous god actually caught up with him. Yan Lao-san looked horrified and quickly turned his horse's head to escape. However, Xiao Wuji had already drawn his sword. Dominate the world. A slash of the sword made the ghosts cry and wolves howl, and the sky and the earth changed color. The sword light split into 2, 2 into 4, and 4 into 8. It instantly turned into a sky full of sword light, drowning all the hundreds of horse bandits who were closest. Ah! Spare your life. Don't want. Spare my life. The hundreds of horse bandits wailed miserably and begged loudly for mercy, but they were soon swept away by the sword energy and cut into pieces and died. Of course the leader, Yan Lao-san, was the first to die. He didn't even have time to say a word for mercy. It had been chopped into blood mist. After killing more than 100 horse bandits with one sword, Xiao Wuji started killing again. He flew down, turned into lightning and rushed into the group of horse bandits, and began to harvest the dead souls again. The wave of killing ended, Xiao Wuji sheathed his sword and slowly calmed down the murderous intention in his heart. At this moment, there were corpses under his feet, and there was no one left alive. Xiao Wuji was not a murderous person, but it seemed that these people were robbing passers-by and seeking financial harm. Xiao Wuji would kill the horse bandits without any mercy, let alone any psychological burden. Each of these horse bandits had bloody hands, and they all deserved to die. The reason why there are so many horse bandits in this world is ultimately to blame on the dog emperor. Thinking of this, Xiao Wuji became even more unhappy with the dog emperor. As always, Xiao Wuji would scold the dog emperor when he was bored. If the world was peaceful, who would be willing to be a horse bandit? To do that business of seeking wealth and killing people. These at the beginning, the horse bandits were desperate refugees who could not survive. Because of the hardships in the world, they turned into bandits. At first, they were excusable. However, as time went by, they killed many people and changed from victims to victims. He became a perpetrator and eventually became the cruel thug who deserves death. The world is tough. Xiao Wuji sighed in his heart and shook his head. Such a world cannot be changed by one person. Xiao Wuji can only save a good person when he sees a good person, and kill a bad person when he sees a bad person. It does not violate his own heart. Just here at that moment, the violent storm suddenly stopped. The deep clouds in the sky were torn apart, and a ray of sunlight shone through the cracks in the clouds, bringing vitality and warmth to the earth again. Xiao Wuji's feet generated electricity, which turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared instantly. Soon, Xiao Wuji returned to the inn, met up with Shuehua, Song Liman, and others, and the cavalry set off again. In the next few days, Xiao Wuji and his party encountered several more waves of horse bandits. Following Xiao Wuji's order to kill them all and leave no one behind, none of the incoming horse bandits left alive. When they left the Guanyang group, the situation finally got a little better. After all, it was nothing, the place was as chaotic as Guanyang County. A few days later, Xiao Wuji and his party finally returned to Jinling City. Finally home. Outside Jinling City, Xiao Wuji rode on horseback and entered the city gate with a group of royal guards. When the soldiers guarding the city gate saw Xiao Wuji and his party, they did not dare to stop them, and respectfully welcomed Xiao Wuji into the city. "Captain, it seems they didn't pay the city fee," a soldier with a green face said to an older soldier. "Shut up and keep your voice down." The older soldier quickly covered the young soldier's mouth and glanced at the backs of Xiao Wuji and others. Seeing that they didn't notice, he breathed a sigh of relief. Then he slapped the young soldier on the forehead and whispered. He cursed, "You don't want your life, do you know who they are? They are Jin Yiwei. If you dare to collect city fees from them, you don't want to live anymore, right?" Jin Yiwei? Didn't Jin Yiwei wear a flying fish suit? Are they not wearing any? The young soldier looked confused. Obviously, this person is new here, has limited knowledge, and doesn't understand the rules at all. The captain said seriously, "Those of us who look at the gate, the most important thing is to have the ability to see." Although those people just now were not wearing FEU uniforms, they were wearing embroidered spring knives around their waists. Moreover, the person at the head is very imposing and majestic. In all likelihood, he is a member of the Imperial Guard. We can't afford to offend people like this, do you understand? The young soldier suddenly understood and said with admiration, "Captain, your eyes are so good. I didn't even notice it just now." That is. The old soldier held his head high, raised his chin, and said with a proud look on his face, "I have been watching the city gate for 30 years. I have no other skills. I just have this pair of eyes, which are so poisonous. I can guess almost all the members of the royal family, princes, ministers, and children of aristocratic families just by looking at them from a distance. The smell on their bodies, I can smell it from 8 feet away. You are still young. When you reach my age, you can also develop this skill." I don't want to see a 30-year-old door." The young soldier looked disgusted. The older soldier glanced at the young soldier, shook his head and said, "You young people, old man, I have seen too many of them. You all want to make contributions and honor your ancestors. But how can it be so easy to build a successful career? That all requires fighting with your life. How many people die on the border every year? How many of them can come back alive and honor their ancestors? For this man, the most important thing is to live. As the saying goes, it is better to die than live. When you get a few years older, get a wife and have children, you will understand the benefits of seeing the city gate in vain. Although you can't get promoted and make a fortune, at least you are safe and can live a stable life. The young soldier was distracted, staring at the back of Xiao Wuji and his group as they left. His eyes were hot and full of yearning. In his opinion, a good man should make contributions and accomplish great things with just one hand. Minister. As for what the older soldier said, he didn't listen at all. When the older soldier saw this, he shook his head, sighed, and said no more. It's hard to persuade the damn ghost with good words. Many people said that the gatekeeper soldiers are the meanest and have the least status, equivalent to watchdogs. But only the old soldier knows best in his heart, how beneficial the city gate is. I remember when he was young, he joined the army, and he also wanted to kill the enemy on the battlefield. Karma. But once he saw a dead person with his own eyes, he became afraid, and finally chose to be a humble soldier guarding the city gate. The people who joined the army with him laughed at him, said he was a coward, and left him to go to the battlefield. As a result, what? No one who went to the battlefield came back alive. He was the only one who was still alive. Not only did he marry a wife and have children, but he also had many children and lived a happy life. Look at what happened to the city gate. Look at the city gate. At least he is alive, which is enough. Xiao Wuji, a group of people swaggered through the city of Jinling, and the 40 or 50 large boxes behind them attracted special attention. Pedestrians on both sides pointed at Xiao Wuji and whispered among themselves, all trying to guess what was in the boxes. Drive. 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 Just when Xiao Wuji passed a crossroads on Qinglong Street, several fast horses suddenly rushed out from the side. The horse in the front was running like crazy, very fast. When the horseman saw Xiao Wuji, he was already there was no time to brake, and he rushed straight towards Xiao Wuji. Get out of here. Get out of here. You don't want to die, right? Get out of here. On horseback, a young Jinyaiwei wearing Fiyu uniform roared and cursed. His arrogant look was more arrogant than any dude Xiao Wuji had ever seen before. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 177. Boom. Xiao Wuji slapped his palm with his backhand, and the force of Heiran's palm shot out of the air and hit the horse's head. The horse neighed, blood spurted out, its head raised high, its two front legs lifted off the ground, and then it fell heavily toward the back. Jin Yiwei, who was riding on horseback, also fell heavily to the ground and fell face first. There was a crisp sound, the bridge of the man's nose was broken, and his nose was bleeding all over the floor. Master, master, are you okay? The few guardsmen in rear quickly dismounted their horses and went up to help the fallen dandy. Be gentle, didn't you see my young master's nose bleeding? The dandy young master pushed the two guards away, stood up suddenly, wiped the blood from his nose, and glared at Xiao Wuji. Bitch, didn't you hear me just telling you to get out of the way? You actually dare to kill my young master's horse. Do you know how much this young master's horse is worth? If you sell it, your whole family won't be able to afford it. You actually caused me to get hurt. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. No one in your family, including your children, can even hope to survive. The expression of the playboy was ferocious and twisted, like an angry tiger cub, looking at Xiao Wuji fiercely, with eyes that wanted to bite people. He was cursing and did not notice at all that Xiao Wuji's face had completely darkened. There had never been anyone before. Anyone who dared to threaten him like this is already dead. This dandy young master galloped on his horse in Jinling City and almost ran into him. Xiao Wuji only killed horses but not people. He was already merciful, but he didn't expect that this man still wanted to die. Come on, get him. The handsome young man waved his hand, and 4 guards in uniforms behind him rushed up immediately. Be bold. Xiao Wuji shouted angrily, and invisible sound waves roared out, instantly flying the 4 people who rushed up. The 4 people spurted blood from their mouths and noses, and hit the ground heavily. Their muscles and bones were broken, they whined and wailed, and they could no longer stand up. If it weren't for the fact that this was Jinling City, there were still people around, and if they were both Jin Yiwei, Xiao Wuji would have killed them long ago. How could they still be alive? You, don't come here. Seeing that Xiao Wuji just roared and knocked 4 people away, the playboy was finally frightened. His face was pale and trembling, and he collapsed on the ground. Xiao Wuji shouted coldly, whose subordinates are you? Who allowed you to ride horses in the bustling city of Jinling? As a Jinyiwei, if you know the law and break it, what crime should you face? The laws of the Great Zhou dynasty clearly stipulate that except for the emperor and the 800 miles emergency military, no one else is allowed to ride horses in the bustling city of Jinling. Violators will be punished. It can range from a rod to a banishment. If a horse kills someone, he will also be punished, sentenced to death. As Jin Yiwei, these people knew the law and broke the law, and their crimes were increased. Even if Xiao Wuji killed them at this moment, he would not be guilty. Mr. Xiao, please calm down. Mr. Xiao, please calm down. The young master was young and ignorant and bumped into the Lord. His subordinates are here to apologize for him. At this time, a member of the Jinyi guard Behu ran over from a distance, came to Xiao Wuji, bowed respectfully, and smiled dryly to plead for mercy. You know me. Xiao Wuji looked coldly at the Jin Yiwei Behu. Behu smiled bitterly and said, Master Xiao is famous, so I naturally know him. In Luo Chenying, 100 households in Fuzi, Xianan town, see Xiaoqian Hu. With that said, Behu bowed down again and bowed respectfully. Behind him, the playboy was stunned. After coming back to his senses, he roared angrily, Luo Chenying, what are you doing? Why don't you get him for me quickly? He killed my young master's horse and injured my young master. My young master wants him to live a life worse than death. As soon as these words came out, Luo Chenying's face changed drastically, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. At this moment, he really wanted to strangle the dandy to death. Is he really blind or really brainless? Can't you see the current situation? They are the ones who are being ignored now, they are the ones who made mistakes, and they are the ones who are at a disadvantage. Xiao Wuji should be grateful if he doesn't care about them, but he still dares to look for trouble without mercy? This is no longer looking for trouble. Instead, he was looking for death. Xiao Wuji almost laughed out loud at this brainless idiot, looked at Luo Chenying and asked which company sent this trash to Nanzan Fuzi. Although there are many dandies in Jinling City, not many can be so arrogant, and even fewer can be so stupid. Luo Chenying smiled bitterly and said, this is the grandson of Lord Chief Assistant, the left minister of the household department. Mr. Li's son, Li Jingwei. The left minister of household affairs? Li Dingzhang. When Luo Chenying said this, Xiao Wuji immediately remembered. Li Dingzhang, the left minister of household affairs, was the second son of Li Wenbo, the chief assistant. After Xiao Wuji killed Li Dingshan, Li Dingzhang took control of the Li mansion. Now Li Wenbo still has. Before he came back from Qingzhou, Li Dingzhang was equivalent to the master of the Li family. If nothing else happens, this Li Dingzhang will be the next head of the Li family. And this Li Jingwei will also become the leader of the new generation of the Li family after Li Lin. No wonder this idiot is so arrogant, he is so crazy. Xiao Wuji thought about it for a while and figured everything out. After Li Lin's death, Li Jingwei can be called the strongest second-generation dude in Jinling City. It's no wonder he is so arrogant and arrogant. Bang! Li Jingwei has not finished speaking. Was slapped away by Xiao Wuji. When he landed on the ground, his blood. If you keep talking nonsense, I will kill you now. Xiao Wuji's eyes widened, and a fierce murderous aura burst out, instantly covering Li Jingwei. You, how dare you hit me? Do you know who I am? I am the grandson of the chief minister and the son of the minister of household affairs. Although Li Jingwei was very scared, as soon as he thought of his father and grandfather, he became bolder and shouted at Xiao Wuji with a fierce look. He didn't believe that anyone dared to kill him in Jinling City. Xiao Wuji backhanded him again. It was a slap that sent Li Jingwei flying out again. Xiao Wuji sneered, what about the grandson of the chief minister? I just hit you, what can you do to me? If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will kill you now. You ride a horse in the bustling city of Jinling, endangering the people, and you are also a criminal, charging and threatening me. Even if I kill you, it is within the permission of the law. Let's see if Li Wenbo and Li Dingzhang can save you then. Isn't he Li Wenbo's grandson? It's not like Xiao Wuji has never killed him before. Not to mention his grandson, Li Wenbo's son Xiao Wuji also killed him. He was struck by Xiao Wuji's cold eyes with a glare. Li Jingwei felt chills all over his body and his blood almost froze. He wanted to speak, but his tongue didn't obey him and he couldn't say a word. He wanted to run away, but his feet didn't obey him and he couldn't move. Xiao Qinhu, please be merciful, don't be impulsive. Luo Chenying from 100 households saw Xiao Wuji's murderous intention and quickly came up to plead for mercy. He could not just watch Li Jingwei being killed by Xiao Wuji. Behind Xiao Wuji was the commander Xia Yongxuan, who was also a popular figure in front of the emperor and killed Li Jingwei. Jingwei will be fine. But he is different. He was assigned as an errand under Li Jingwei. His main job is to assist Li Jingwei and protect his safety. If Li Jingwei dies, he will not be protected well and will be killed by Li Jingwei. If the government pursues the blame, he will definitely die. Xiao Wuji said coldly, if you ride a horse in a busy city, if you commit a crime like this, you can avoid the death penalty, but you cannot escape the crime of living. You will be punished according to the law, and you will be punished with a rod of 60. Luo Chenying hesitated. Punishing Li Jingwei with a cane? He didn't have the courage. Xiao Wuji looked at Luo Chenying and said, if you want to protect him, then you have to bear it for him, but it will be doubled, with 100 punishments. 2. Who gets beaten is up to you. Remember, don't go against me in secret. If I know that you are perfunctory, there will be serious consequences. Facing Xiao Wuji's cold eyes, Luo Chenying knew that Xiao Wuji was not joking. She lowered her head in fear and said respectfully, I obey. Humph. Xiao Wuji snorted coldly, and rode away in a swaggering manner. Only the furious Li Jingwei and the 4 Jinyaiwei general banners who were seriously injured and vomiting blood were left behind. Damn it! Damn it! Who was that bastard just now? How dare you hit me? I'm going to kill him, kill him. After Xiao Wuji left, Li Jingwei dared to speak nonsense. He hated Xiao Wuji so much that he wished he could peel off Xiao Wuji's skin and cramp his muscles so that he could vent his anger. Since he was a child, when has Li Jingwei ever been wronged like this? Now, Li Lin is dead, Li Dingshan is also dead, and he, Li Jingwei, will soon become the third-generation heir of the Li family. Who among the civil and military officials in the DPRK would not give him a little favor? How dare anyone dare to beat him? A bear's heart and a leopard's guts. Li Jingwei was so angry that his eyes were red, his chest was heaving violently, and his back molars were almost chewed out. Young master, that person just now was Xiao Wuji, a member of Qinhu, Jinyaiwei. We cannot afford to offend him. Luo Chenying comforted him from the side, his expression full of fear. Today, Xiao Wuji ranks first in the land rankings, and he is still a popular person in front of the emperor. Whether it is strength or power, Xiao Wuji is already a new noble in the court. In addition, Xiao Wuji saved the lives of many officials and was their savior. Most officials wanted to give Xiao Wuji some face. In today's court, few people really dare to offend Xiao Wuji. It turns out that he is Xiao Wuji. Li Jingui was shocked when he heard Xiao Wuji's name. He had naturally heard of Xiao Wuji's name, but not because of the place list, but because of Li Lin. Because Li Lin was against Xiao Wuji, that led to his own murder. Li Dingshan's death was also somewhat related to Xiao Wuji. Hao Niuzhao. Although it was not Xiao Wuji who killed Li Lin, the cause was Xiao Wuji. The Li family has wanted to get rid of Xiao Wuji for a long time, however, they just couldn't find the opportunity. In the view of the Li family, it was the golden-faced Lion King, the boss of the seven evils of Mobei, who killed Li Lin and Li Dingshan, and Xiao Wuji was just the inducement. Xiao Wuji was too strong, so it is destined that it will not be easy to kill him. Damn, hate. Damn bastard, I must kill him. Li Jingui roared, hating Xiao Wuji in his heart, but he did not dare to act rashly. Li Jingui knew that if he wanted to kill Xiao Wuji, he could not do it with his strength. He could only ask his father Li Dingzhong to ask him to take action. Damn Xiao Wuji, Master Qiu Ben has taken note of it today and will kill you soon. Li Jingui glanced at Xiao Wuji's back hatefully, turned around and left. As for the punishment of the stick, Li Jingui didn't take it to heart at all. Except Xiao Wuji, who dared to hit him. Luo Chenying also felt dissatisfied in her heart. I am even more disgusted with Li Jingui. Damn it, this brainless idiot dude has made him miserable. He usually just bullies ordinary people, but now he actually provokes Xiao Wuji. He has suffered a lot. Although he is an innate master, after 120 strokes, he will lose half his life and will not be able to get out of bed for at least a month. But Luo Chenying dare not beat him. Xiao Wuji's words are still echoing in his ears. If he goes against his will, he may really lose his life. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 178. Meeting a brainless idiot halfway did not ruin Xiao Wuji's mood. Anyway, it was just a dying person, so Xiao Wuji didn't take it to heart. All the way back to Bijin Fuzi, Xiao Wuji dismounted in front of the door. A guard in golden clothes guarding the gate saw Xiao Wuji's return and hurriedly came up to lead the horse. Xiao Qinhu, welcome back, it seems that we have won another victory. The few warriors guarding the gate looked at the 40 or 50 big boxes and said, there are all the Jin Yiwei with red faces, and I don't know how envious they are. Following Xiao Wuji, you can make great achievements every time. Even if you just drink some soup, you can make a lot of money. Unlike them, who have to look at the gate in the sun and rain every day, there is no future at all. Xiao Wuji looked at Shuihua, Song Liman and others and ordered, register the loot into the treasury. I will go to the third brother to ask for credit for you. Thank you, sir. Everyone looked ecstatic, especially Shuihua and Song Liman. They knew that they would be promoted to 1,000 households this time. They walked into Fuzi, Bijin, and greeted some Jin Yiwei with whom they were close, and Xiao Wuji arrived. Qinhuizhuo Zhongtang. Third brother, I'm back. Xiao Wuji smiled and cupped his hands at Yuan Xiong. Sit down. Yuan Xiong raised his hand and asked Xiao Wuji to sit down. A maid next to him immediately brought him a cup of tea. How about it? Nothing unexpected happened during this mission, right? Yuan Xiong asked while drinking tea. Xiao Wuji took a sip of tea to quench his thirst and said, no surprises, it went smoothly. Both Shui Wuxian and Shui Hong'ai of the evil blood sect are dead, leaving only 2 or 3 big cats and kittens. What accident can happen? I mobilized 2,000 troops from the Hanzhou battalion to go up the mountain for encirclement and suppression, and bloodbathe the evil blood section. The evil blood sect is completely gone. This is the mission briefing. Third brother, please take a look. This was written by Xiao Wuji on the way back. To be honest, writing the document was more tiring than asking him to kill people. After taking the document, Yuan Xiong opened it and glanced at it, nodding slightly. Xiao Wuji wrote the task process very simply, just take a look, only 747 can know the details. It also records that Xiao Wuji killed Mr. Mi Tian, but Yuan Xiong just glanced at it and passed by without paying attention to it. He just killed Mr. Qian, a man with bad conduct and many evil deeds. It was a trivial matter for Yuan Xiong. Even if he had Li Wenbo's support behind him. In the Zhou dynasty, the people who were least afraid of Li Wenbo were their Jin Yiwei. When he saw the list of trophies in the appendix at the back of the document, Yuan Xiong's eyes lit up. I didn't expect it. The evil blood sect has actually accumulated so much wealth, and the treasury happens to be empty. Now it can finally put aside its urgent needs. Xiao Wuji asked, is the treasury short of money? Yuan Xiong closed the document, sighed and said, the national treasury is empty now, and almost everywhere is short of money. At this time, His Majesty is going to rebuild the Deluo Palace, and the Wanbao Pavilion that was destroyed by the demon cult is also going to be rebuilt. During this time, a large number of refugees are rebelling in northern Xinjiang, and they need to spend money to appease them. The military pay for the army on the border of Bian is also going to be paid. Now the national treasury is not short of money, but very short of money. The Secretary of the Ministry of Revenue and His Majesty lament about poverty every day, even breaking a coin in half and spending it. Are you going to rebuild the Deluo Hall again? Xiao Wuji was a little surprised when he heard this. It's enough to rebuild the Wanbao Pavilion. It's natural to appease the refugees and distribute military pay, but what's so good about the Deluo Hall? Over the years, the Deluo Palace has been repaired almost every 3 years and once a year. The splendor of Deluo Hall has far exceeded that of the main hall of the palace. It was the place where Emperor Jingtai made alchemy. He almost never went to other places except the main hall of alchemy. What is the use of building such a magnificent building? This is simply a waste of people and money. Yuan Xiong knew what Xiao Wuji was thinking, and sighed helplessly. I also know that your Majesty's move is inappropriate. The commander also knows it and has warned him, but it's useless. Refining elixirs for immortality is His Majesty's obsession, and no one can stop him. A few days ago, more than 20 ministers jointly signed a letter, requesting His Majesty to postpone the reconstruction of the Deluo Palace and spend money to appease the refugees in northern Xinjiang. But who knew that this move made His Majesty Longyan furious? In anger, His Majesty killed all the officials who led him, and their entire family members were also exiled. Speaking of this, Yuan Xiong also shook his head and sighed, sighing. After Xiao Wuji heard this, he also felt very chilled. Those ministers devoted themselves to serving the country and the people, but ended up with their families broken up and their families destroyed. How could this make other ministers feel embarrassed? Those who serve the country and the people, there is no good end, but those who flatter the emperor can be promoted and make a fortune. As time goes by, how many good officials will there be in this great Zhou dynasty? It is not to blame that the people have many complaints against Emperor Jingtai, nor is it to blame that the refugees from all over the country rebelled. All this was done by Emperor Jingtai himself. As the saying goes, if you don't do something, you will not die. The dog emperor is so stupid and cruel, and he harms loyal people, and his tragic end is already foreseeable by Xiao Wuji. Don't be too discouraged. Apart from being obsessed with alchemy and immortality, His Majesty is still doing very well in other areas. Yuan Xiong looked at Xiao Wuji and said. Obviously, Yuan Xiong was afraid that Xiao Wuji would be disheartened by this incident and lose loyalty to His Majesty, So he spoke to comfort him. Xiao Wuji nodded and said, "Don't worry, third brother, I know my identity. Also know their responsibilities." These words are ambiguous. On the surface, Xiao Wuji is showing his loyalty, but in fact, only Xiao Wuji knows the meaning. For such a dog emperor, it would be great if Xiao Wuji couldn't act chivalrously and kill him. How dare he be loyal to him wholeheartedly? Are you kidding me? The only person Xiao Wuji is loyal to from the beginning to the end is himself. Yuan Xiong obviously didn't hear the implication of Xiao Wuji's words, nodded and said, "That's good. This time you eradicated the evil blood sect and brought back so many trophies, alleviating the urgent needs of the court. This is another great achievement. When His Majesty finds out, he will definitely reward you greatly. Just wait patiently for the news. This trip is going to be long, so I will give you 10 days of leave. You can go home and rest for a while." Xiao Wuji smiled and nodded, "Thank you, third brother." After saying that, Xiao Wuji stood up and strode away. The news that Xiao Wuji had eradicated the evil blood sect and brought back a large amount of loot reached the palace, and Emperor Jingtai was indeed delighted. "Okay, well done, Xiao Wuji did not disappoint me." Emperor Jingtai looked at the list of trophies in his hand and grinned almost to his ears. He only said one sentence majestically, "Xiao Wuji acted appropriately and he will be rewarded if he makes new achievements." Xia Yongxuan, the commander of the Jinyi guards, saluted at the side and said, "On behalf of Xiao Wuji, I would like to thank your majesty for your kindness." Kabk, Emperor Jingtai closed the list of loot and said, "Divide 30% of this batch of gold and silver to rebuild the Deluo Hall, the other 30% to buy heavenly materials, earthly treasures, and alchemy materials, and the remaining 40% to appease refugees in northern Xinjiang." Xia Yongxuan frowned slightly, feeling that it was inappropriate to do so, but in the end he did not open his mouth to admonish, and said respectfully, "I obey the order. Go ahead." Emperor Jingtai waved his hand and ordered Xia Yongxuan to step back, while he continued to make alchemy. The flames in the alchemy furnace were burning brightly, and even fine steel and dark iron could be burned into molten iron. But Xia Yongxuan felt that his heart was a little cold, and all the energy in his body was his blood was a little cold. After walking out of Deluo Hall, Xia Yongxuan looked up at the sky, then looked back at the closed door of Deluo Hall, and let out a sigh. Only he knew the helplessness, exhaustion, chilling, and anger in it. So, over the years, although Xia Yongxuan was extremely loyal to Emperor Jingtai, he became increasingly disdainful of what Emperor Jingtai did. In the past few days, Emperor Jingtai killed several loyal ministers who warned him, which inevitably made Xia Yongxuan feel sad. It is grown from flesh. Using oneself to save others, Xia Yongxuan is also afraid that one day he will end up in a situation where a cunning rabbit will die and a lackey will cook him. After Xiao Wuji left the central hall of Qinhuizhou, he immediately went to the Su mansion. After more than a month away, Xiao Wuji misses Su Weiner very much and just wants to see her as soon as possible. Now Xiao Wuji has a new residence, Xiao Mansion. Before leaving Jinling, Xiao Wuji told Su Yu to buy the house next to Su Mansion. It is the residence of Xiao Wuji. He is a dignified man, guarding thousands of households, and is a county uncle personally appointed by the emperor. It is not good to always live in his father-in-law's house. If you tell me, others will think that he is a son-in-law. Anyway, he is not lacking money. Buying a house is just a trivial matter. Originally, Xiao Wuji planned to buy it on Zuk Street, after all, that was his hometown. But after thinking about it, he decided to buy it next door to the Su mansion. In this way, as long as the wall is opened, it can be connected with the Su mansion. If a thief comes in the future, Xiao Wuji will be able to protect the safety of the Su Yu couple as soon as possible. The street where the Su mansion is located is a wealthy area of Jinling City, although it is not as good as the royal family. The area where the ministers live, but it is far beyond the area where ordinary people live. The housing prices here are very high, and ordinary small wealthy businessmen cannot afford them. And rich people will not sell their houses casually. But Xiao Wuji was different. He gave too much. In order to handle the matter in the shortest time, Xiao Wuji directly raised the price by 50% and bought the house next door to the Su mansion. In addition, Xiao Wuji was a Jinyaiwei. Qinhu, the wealthy businessman who sold the house, had to give some face, and finally took the money and left happily. "Oh, a month has changed since I last saw you." Xiao Wuji came to the door of Xiao mansion and looked at the elegantly decorated door, feeling quite satisfied. "My uncle is back." Seeing Xiao Wuji, the guard guarding the door immediately shouted in surprise. "What's it called?" He was still called uncle, but now he should be called master. Another guard corrected him. Yes, look at my brain, I really shouldn't be called uncle, I should be called master." The guard quickly slapped his head. Both of them were the original guards of the Su mansion. They were used to calling Xiao Wuji uncle, and they couldn't change it for a while. Xiao Wuji turned over and dismounted, and a guard quickly came up to lead the horse. Xiao Wuji asked, "Is Wanner in the house?" The guard nodded and said, Zay, the day after I bought this house, the lady moved here. The master has not come back for more than a month. The young lady misses him so much that she misses him every day." Xiao Wuji smiled and said, "Don't call me master from now on. Just call me young master." "Sir, that's fine too. Calling me old makes me old." Yes, the villain obeys." The guard nodded repeatedly and asked, "Do you want me to inform the young lady that the young master is back?" Xiao Wuji said, "No need, I will go find her myself." Xiao Wuji walked into Xiao's mansion, and every step of the mansion was filled with beautiful scenery, rows upon rows of carved beams and painted buildings, and antique beauty. Before he saw Su Weiner, Xiao Wuji first saw a tall man 8 feet tall, holding a red-blooded spear. It was Gongsun Ao. "I heard that you went to exterminate the evil blood section." Gongsun Ao said this when he came up, and his face was expressionless, like a big log. "Why don't you take me with you? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 179. I heard that you went to exterminate the evil blood section. Gongsun Ao said this when he came up, and his face was expressionless, like a big log. "Why don't you take me with you? I can help too." Xiao Wuji said, "The evil blood sect is not a demon sect, so why should I take you with me? Besides, those little grasshoppers from the evil blood sect, who need you to take action?" Gongsun Ao was left speechless and silent. Xiao Wuji pushed Gongsun Ao away and said with a look of disgust, "Okay, I will inform you if there is any news about the demon section. You should step aside now. I came home to see my fiancé, not to see a rough guy like you." Gongsun Ao said with disdain, "What's good about women? Women will only affect the speed at which I can swing my gun. Majestic martial arts is what I want in my life. You have such a talent, you should give up everything and pursue martial arts wholeheartedly. If I had your talent and strength, I wouldn't have to be timid if I wanted to take revenge." Xiao Wuji rolled his eyes and said, "I can't explain it to a rough guy like you." Pushing Gongsun Ao away, Xiao Wuji strode towards the back house of the Xiao mansion, and at the same time asked the guards around him, "Has this guy been in the Xiao mansion this month?" The guard nodded and said, "Back to you, master, Gongsun Daxia has been in the mansion for a month. Apart from eating and sleeping every day, he is also practicing spears. He is almost going crazy. He seldom talks and does not eat with us. He never responded to others' inquiries about martial arts. At first we all thought he was mute. Xiao Wuji nodded mentally. He knew the reason why Gongsun Ao was so anxious to practice. If he wants to avenge Bai Junchen, his current strength is far from enough. If he is not strong enough and goes to the demon cult, that is not revenge, but death. But this is fine. Gongsun Ao is taciturn and has no interest in anything other than practicing spears and revenge, so he will not disturb other people in the Xiao mansion. He accidentally attracted the wolf into the house. When he came to the backyard of the Xiao mansion, there was a huge lotus. The pool, the willows clinging to the edge, the lake water is clear. A burst of music came from the piano, melodious and continuous, high and low, like a ring. When Xiao Wuji heard it, he knew that it was Su Weiner playing the piano. After a long time, the song ended. Xiao Wuji clapped his hands and praised, Weiner's piano sound is really getting more and more moving. Xiao Lang. Su Weiner heard Xiao Wuji's voice, raised her head and looked over, and suddenly she screamed in surprise. She held up the hem of her skirt and ran towards Xiao Wuji without stopping. But she tripped on a stone and fell flat on her face. Go down. Miss. When the maid Xiaolan saw Su Weiner falling, her beauty suddenly turned pale and she closed her eyes in fear. Su Weiner also closed her eyes in fear. But she did not fall to the ground, but fell into Xiao Wuji's arms. At the critical moment, Xiao Wuji teleported to Su Weiner in time and saved her. Okay, it's okay, open your eyes. Xiao Wuji said softly. Su Weiner opened her eyes, and the moment she saw her sweetheart, her tears immediately fell. Xiao Lang, you are finally back. Weiner misses you so much. Su Weiner hugged Xiao Wuji tightly and didn't want to let go for a moment. It had been more than a month since she last saw Xiao Wuji, and she hadn't seen Xiao Wuji for more than a month. As the guards in the mansion said, Su Weiner was going crazy thinking about Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji touched Su Weiner's head and said with a smile, okay, am I back now? If you keep crying, you will turn into a little cat and make the servants laugh. Su Weiner looked up and saw the maid Xiaolan covering her mouth and snickering. Her cheeks instantly turned red. I have a gift for you. As he spoke, Xiao Wuji took out a white jade hairpin with red coral beads and a double knot from his arms, and inserted it into Su Weiner's hair. Su Weiner was naturally happy when her sweetheart gave her a gift, and asked with a smile, does it look good? Xiao Wuji held Su Weiner's face and smiled, my Weiner is naturally good looking, and she is one of the best beauties in the world. As she said that, she moved her face closer and made contact at a negative distance. After a long time, Su Weiner's pretty face turned red, her breathing was a little rapid, she patted Xiao Wuji's chest lightly, and said shyly, there are still people here. Xiao Wuji looked around and said with a smile, where is there? Why didn't I see it? The maid Xiaolan stood aside, covering her face with her hands, peeking between her fingers. When she saw Su Weiner looking over, she quickly gave a sweet smile, turned around and ran away. Xiao Wuji looked at Su Weiner and said, I haven't seen you for a month, my Weiner is really, she is getting prettier and prettier, she is truly a peerless beauty. Su Weiner said shyly. Xiao Lang made fun of Weiner again. How can Weiner be called a peerless beauty with her qualities? The real beauties are all on the rouge list. Xiao Wuji said in surprise, how does Weiner know about the rouge list? The rouge list is also one of the Tianji lists, and its reputation is even higher than the Qianlong list, second only to the heaven and earth lists. There are 108 stunning beauties recorded on the rouge list. These beauties are as young as 16 and as old as 30. Each one of them has attracted countless martial arts figures, court officials, royal family members, and powerful and wealthy businessmen all over the world. Xiao Wuji has also seen the rouge list. In addition to the background introduction of the beauties on the list, there is also a portrait of them. It's just that Xiao Wuji is really not interested in ancient painting styles and techniques. He really doesn't think there's anything good about those portraits. How can it be as comfortable to look at portraits as to look at real people? However, the rouge list is also a matter of the world, and Suwainer usually doesn't go out of the house. How could he know about the rouge list if he didn't open the door? Suwainer said with a smile, my father brought it back. Did your father-in-law bring it back? Xiao Wuji's eyes widened and he grinned, and his smile was a little weird. Suwainer said my father went out a few days ago and heard that there were beauties on the rouge list, so he bought a copy and came back. His eyes almost blinked when he read it. Staring out, my mother got very angry because of it. Xiao Wuji smiled and said my father-in-law is really getting stronger with age, and his ambition is still as strong as before. Su Wainer patted Xiao Wuji, laughed and scolded Xiao Lang, you are still laughing, what is so funny about this? At the same time, he glanced at Xiao Wuji nervously and asked in a low voice, does Xiao Lang also like those beauties on the rouge list? Xiao Wuji hugged Suwainer and said, what's so interesting about the dead people in the portraits? Leave a living person like you alone and don't look at those dead portraits. I'm not stupid. What if a living person is in front of Xiao Lang? Will Xiao Lang fall in love with her? Suwainer can't lie, all her emotions are shown on her face. At this moment, the anxiety in her heart is also reflected on her face. It seems that women are the same, whether in ancient times or modern times, the ability to be jealous is innate. Suwainer was also jealous, and she was jealous of a bunch of portraits. Xiao Wuji comforted him, don't worry, it's you I like. I've never been jealous of those women, saw it? Suwainer said if Xiao Lang has a woman he falls in love with in the future, he must tell her, and Wainer will let her in. Wainer understands that a man has 3 wives and 4 concubines. Although Su Yu only married 1 wife, it does not mean that Xiao Wuji can only marry 1 wife. Su Qin has already told Suwainer about this. Xiao Wuji was already a member of the Imperial Guard at a young age, and he was still in front of the emperor. A popular man with a high position and a bright future. 0 requesting flowers. Such a man would never marry just 1 woman in his life. So Su Qin had already taught Suwainer how to get along with Xiao Wuji, and also told her that if Xiao Wuji wanted to take a concubine in the future, ask her not to make a fuss. The relationship between husband and wife needs to be managed. Noisy and angry are always the most useless methods. Xiao Wuji hugged Suwainer and said, don't worry, at least for now, the only one I like is you one. Suwainer leaned quietly in Xiao Wuji's arms, with a happy smile on her lips. Afterwards, Xiao Wuji took Suwainer on a boat trip around the lake, enjoying flowers and playing the piano. Although the lake in the mansion is not as good as Jinghu Lake, it still has a different flavor. Xiao Wuji and Suwainer have many common hobbies, and they haven't seen each other for more than a month, and they have endless things to talk about. The 2 of them play chess for a while, dance the sword and play the piano for a while. Xiao Wuji and Suwainer look at the beautiful lake in front of them, and their faces become more and more serious. Get closer. Before you know it, time has come to the evening and the sun has set. Sir, madam, it's time for dinner. The maid Xiaolan stood by the lake and shouted. Suwainer stood up from Xiao Wuji's arms, her pretty face flushed, and she said in surprise, it's already dusk. Time always flies very fast when you are with the person you like. Xiao Wuji smiled and said, after today, there will be tomorrow. This mission is over. I have 10 days of vacation, so I can spend time with you. Real? Su Wainer had a look of surprise on her face. Xiao Wuji said, of course it's true. When did I ever lie to you? Very good. Suwainer threw herself into Xiao Wuji's arms, lifted her feet off the ground, and kicked around happily. Xiao Wuji smiled, jumped up, held Suwainer in his arms, soared into the sky, and flew directly into the air. Ah! Suwainer was shocked by this sudden turn of events. She held on to Xiao Wuji tightly and did not let go, and did not dare to open her eyes. Xiao Wuji said, it doesn't matter, you are safe with me. Open your eyes quickly. Look at the scenery here. Isn't it beautiful? Su Wan'er opened her eyes as she was told, and was immediately deeply attracted by the beautiful scenery in front of her. She saw the setting sun in front of her, and the golden sunset filled the entire sky. The sunset was sprinkled on the lake, and was illuminated by the rippling blue water of the lake, making it sparkling like countless shining pearls. Su Wan'er has seen a lot of sunsets, but this is the first time to see the sunset in the sky. Looking from the sky, it is more beautiful than ever before. Xiao Lang, this sunset is so beautiful. Su Wan'er couldn't help but said. Xiao Wuji said, if you like it, we can watch it every day, and I can watch it with you for a lifetime. Su Wan'er nodded and said, Xiao Lang, you are so kind to me. As the sun set, Xiao Wuji took Su Wan'er back to the main hall of Xiao Mansion. The Suyu couple also came, and tonight Suyu cooked the food himself to entertain his son-in-law, who had not returned for a month. At the banquet, everyone took their seats. Suyu looked around, asked in confusion, Wuji, don't you invite the great hero Gongsun to have dinner with you? Xiao Wuji said no, he likes to be alone and is not used to being around people. This is not good. Suyu frowned and said, why do you say that Gongsun Daxia is also a master of the earth ranking? It seems too rude for us to do this, Xiao. Wuji smiled and said, my father-in-law really knows more and more about things in the world. He not only knows the Rouge list, but also the earth list. As soon as the words Rouge list came out, Suyu's expression suddenly changed. He felt a chill on his back and a murderous aura. Suqin's eyes were staring at him. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 180. Sensing Suqin's murderous intent, Suyu quickly changed the subject and said to Xiao Wuji, Xian's son-in-law, you are at the top of the list and famous all over the world. Naturally, I want to know more about you. There is also Gongsun Daxia. He is here to protect us as a master of the earth ranking. We must also treat him with courtesy. It's just time to let Master Gongsun have a taste of my cooking. I know nothing about martial arts, but I am somewhat confident in my cooking skills. It was precisely because he knew the significance of the earth ranking that Suyu knew what kind of person Gongsun Ao was. He was the pinnacle master of the Grand Master and ranked 7th on the earth ranking. He was a famous figure in the world. Even when he came to some famous sects, Gongsun Ao will also be treated with courtesy. They, from a small family, could not even hire an innate master before, let alone a peak master. Xiao Wuji said indifferently, it doesn't matter, don't worry about him, he doesn't care about this. Besides, he was not invited by me, but came to follow me voluntarily. I saved him, and he owes me 3 lives in total, and now he's here to repay his debt. When Suyu heard the words, he nodded silently and said no more. He should express less opinions on matters involving the Jianghu. A banquet, where the guests and the host enjoyed themselves. On the other side, Li Mansion. Li Dingjiang, the left minister of the household department, came back drunk. When he arrived at the mansion, he went to attend a banquet with his colleagues today. Emperor Jingtai recently killed several King Liu officials, which brought the 840 arrogance of Li's party to its peak. Li Dingjiang had to fight with Li every night recently. The party officials gathered together to drink, and their lives were much happier than before. There was no Li Dingshan oppressing him, and Li Wenbo was not in Jinling. All the officials in Li's party followed his lead. Countless flattery, and so on. Li Dingjiang was in a daze, feeling like he was about to fly to the sky. This was the life he dreamed of. Brother, why don't you die sooner? If you die earlier, brother and I can live a good life earlier. Li Dingjiang was drunk and said what was in his heart without closing the door. Fortunately, he was surrounded by his confidants and no one would leak it. Otherwise, once these words reached Li Wenbo's ears, Li Dingzhong would have shed his skin even if he died. Master, wake up. A guard shook Li Dingzhong and asked him to wake up slowly. After drinking a cup of hangover tea, Li Dingzhong sobered up a lot. A wicked smile appeared on his mouth and said, "Go, take me to Miwen, tonight I will be at the 19th madam. Spend the night in the room." The 19th lady is Li Dingshan's 19-room concubine. Li Dingjiang's heart is filled with passion whenever he thinks of her. Since Li Dingshan's death, Li Dingzhong has taken good care of Li Dingshan's wives and concubines. He has truly fulfilled his promise. Brother, wife, and daughter, my brother raised him. Even if he took care of one a day, he could not change the same one for a month. What is unkindness, hypocrisy, and obscenity? Li Dingzhong explained the meaning of these two words very well. Just when Li Dingzhong was going to Miwen, rapid footsteps sounded, and a young man with a white gauze on his face walked in. It was Li Jingwei. "Dad, you must avenge your son." As soon as Li Jingwei saw Li Dingzhong, he started to cry loudly. With tears and runny nose running down his face, he felt as much aggrieved as he wanted. "Damn it, who are you?" Li Dingzhong is still drunk and hazy at this moment. He can't recognize his relatives even 1 meter away, not to mention that Li Jingwei's face is still wrapped in white gauze. Li Jingwei cried, "It's me, Dad, I'm Jingwei. Longitude and latitude? Is it you? Are you like this?" Li Dingzhong took a closer look and finally recognized his son. Seeing that his son was injured, he was half awake from the wine. Although Li Dingzhong did not care about brotherhood, he loved his son very much. Seeing that his son was injured, Li Dingzhong became furious. "Who hurt you? Tell Dad, Dad will avenge you. How dare you hurt my son, Li Dingzhong? Does he want to rebel? Drinking makes people cowardly." Li Dingzhong was already very courageous, but after drinking wine, he became even more courageous and dared to say anything. Not everyone can say the word rebellion. What Li Dingzhong just said is simply he regarded his family as a royal family. If King Liu officials knew about it, they would definitely impeach him. But Li Jingwei didn't care. Instead, he took it for granted and said bitterly, "It's Xiaowaji, the royal guard. Not only did he kill my BMW today, but he also broke my nose and slapped me twice in public. Dad, look, my son's teeth have been knocked out." Li Jingwei opened his mouth. 5 teeth were missing inside, and several other teeth were also loose. Now Li Jingwei can't even bite tofu, let alone meat. "Dad, when Xiaowaji hit me in the face, he hit you in the face and slapped Grandpa in the face. Our Li family will never let this matter go. Dad, you must avenge me. Damn Xiaowaji, it's him again." Li Dingzhong slapped his hand on the tea table. Xiaowaji is really the biggest enemy of his Li family. But Xiaowaji has always been an enemy of Li Dingshan and Li Lin and his son. He has nothing to do with Li Dingzhong, so Li Dingzhong doesn't he plan to go to trouble Xiaowaji. He never expected that instead of going to trouble Xiaowaji, Xiaowaji came to trouble him. He actually injured his son, which made Li Dingzhong unbearable. These days, he has been drifting. Li Dingzhong got up and couldn't swallow this breath no matter what. "Black Wind, do you have any way to deal with that Xiaowaji? Better to kill him." Li Dingzhong looked at the guard next to him and asked. "I'm sorry, sir, but my subordinate is incompetent and is no match for Xiaowaji." The guard next to him shook his head. As soon as Xiaowaji was mentioned, the guard's pupils shrank into a small black dot, and his heart became frightened. Xiaowaji is the top of the earth ranking. How can he deal with a half-step grandmaster level master? Can't you think of a way? Our Li family has so much power, is it possible that we can't do anything to help a little Xiaowaji? Li Jingwei said from the side, looking unwilling. Unless Xiaowaji's corpse was cut into thousands of pieces, it would be difficult to eliminate the hatred in his heart. Guard Hefeng said solemnly, if you want to kill Xiao Wuji, no one can kill him unless the great master takes action. Moreover, killing Xiao Wuji would also anger Xia Yongxuan, the commander of the Jinyi guards, and even anger His Majesty. Sir, please don't forget, Xiao Wuji is now a popular figure in front of His Majesty the Emperor and one of the 13 Taibao. His Majesty the Emperor will not let go of killing him. Hefeng's words woke up Li Dingzhang. The alcohol in his body turned into beads of sweat and poured out. Li Dingzhang shivered when the night wind blew, and he suddenly woke up. Yes, yes, you are right, Xiao Wuji cannot be killed casually, this matter must be considered in the long run. Father. Li Jingui saw Li Dingzhang shrinking and became anxious. You shut up. Li Dingzhang cursed and said, I'm not saying that we won't deal with Xiao Wuji, but I'm just saying that we need to take a long-term approach. A gentleman's revenge will last 10 years. Why are you anxious? In any case, this matter has nothing to do with us. Guard Hefeng nodded at the side and said, the master is wise, that's it. As long as it has nothing to do with the Li mansion, even if His Majesty the Emperor is angry, we will not be involved. Li Jingui also understood and said, Father, do you mean to ask someone else to do it? But how can outsiders be as reliable as our family's dead soldiers? Li Dingzhang shook his head and said, how can an ordinary dead soldier deal with Xiao Wuji? Only the Grand Master can take action. 0. But the Grand Master in the mansion only listens to the orders of my father and eldest brother. Now that my father is gone and my eldest brother is dead, I can't order them at all. Speaking of this, Li Dingzhang felt a surge of anger in his heart. This was what made him most uncomfortable. Although he has now become the nominal master of the Li mansion, and even Li Dingshan's wives and concubines have become his forbidden concubines, all of this is false. Because he cannot control the strongest power of Li mansion. If he cannot control this power, he is not the real master of Li mansion. Don't worry, Jingui, your father will avenge you, don't worry yet. Li Dingzhang patted Li Jingui on the shoulder and said softly, this matter must be discussed in the long term and must be absolutely foolproof. Li Jingui heard what Li Dingzhang said. Although he was unwilling to accept it, he had no choice but to agree. He could only curse Xiao Wuji in his heart, if I let you live for a few more days, I will make your life worse than death soon. No one can live unharmed after offending me, and you are no exception. After Li Jingui left, Li Dingzhang said a few words in the ear of the guard Hefeng, you go to Kishalu and announce 2 bonuses, light and dark. Dark flower requires them to do this. Guard Hefeng's eyes widened instantly after hearing Li Dingzhang's special request. Shock and fear flashed deep in his pupils, and he felt a chill all over his body. He did not expect that Li Dingzhang could think of such vicious and despicable means to deal with Xiao Wuji. They are indeed members of the Li family. When these people are ruthless, they are much more ruthless than the Jianghu people like them. Guard Hefeng nodded respectfully and said, I understand, sir, I will do it right away. Well, go ahead, and remember to hide your identity so that no one can find out that it is related to our Li family. The subordinates understand. The guard Hefeng bowed his hands and bowed, and then strode away from the Li mansion. Taking advantage of the night, Hefeng changed his appearance, quietly went to Kishalu station, and issued 2 tasks. One was to kill. The task of killing Xiao Wuji is Minghua, with a bounty of 500,000 taels of silver. The second target is Xiao Wuji's fiancée Su Weiner. It does not require killing, but a hidden flower, with a bounty of 200,000 taels of silver. The so-called hidden flower, that is, the killer must deal with the bounty target according to the methods required by the employer. This requirement can only be known by the killer after accepting the task. Some 2.0 employers hate a certain person so much that they don't want him to die happily and want him to be tortured before death, so they will ask the killer to torture the target in a specific way before killing him. These torture methods include but are not limited to lighting sky lanterns, skinning, being tortured, pouring mercury, using human pigs to cut off hands and feet, etc. There are also some special perverted requirements, such as not killing the target, but just castrating the target. There was once a woman who was resentful because she was abandoned by her lover. She asked Kishalu to castrate her entire family into eunuchs. Anyway, as long as the employer makes a request, Kishalu can satisfy it. Kishalu has indeed done its best to satisfy its employers. No employer is dissatisfied with any task Kishalu completes. Although there are many killer organizations in the world, the undercover business is only available in Kishalu. It is precisely by relying on this method that Kishalu has attracted many employers of all kinds. The killer business has grown bigger and bigger, becoming the #1 killer organization today.